Chapter 51. Mr. Sullivan, we S.H.I.E.L.D. have received news that the four major forces including the European Blood Clan, Werewolves, Hand, and Assassin Mutual Aid Society have all sent their elites to prepare to assassinate Mr. Sullivan. Unlike those gangsters who made the contract, these assassins belong to the 13-seat force of the Dark Council. And we, S.H.I.E.L.D., are committed to protecting the world from being invaded by supernatural forces. As long as Mr. Sullivan joins our SHIELD, we can guarantee. In the East Room of the White House, wealthy businessmen from all sides have interests. Ren drank champagne calmly and listened quietly to Phil Coulson's various boasts. Others don't know the details of SHIELD. Ren doesn't know it yet. Since the establishment of S.H.I.E.L.D., it relied on Howard Stark, Carter Page, the first-generation Ant-Man, etc. in the early stage, the secret support of HYDRA in the middle stage, and the Avengers Alliance superheroes in the later stage, all the way to a sieve. It is impossible to join SHIELD. But S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't contain a little bit of what people need. As the largest intelligence organization under the World Security Council, S.H.I.E.L.D. has a good framework. It has money, people, and channels. Especially the 084 items that have been collected in SHIELD. Extraordinary materials, things, etc., sometimes have a great, even terrifying impact on ordinary people. But for Ren, most of them can be regarded as cultivation resources. You can make a calculation. But forget it now, for Ren, the most important thing right now is to get the Osborn Group in his hands, and also focus on cultivating the 5 elements spirit insects and raising the earthly evil. As for S.H.I.E.L.D., just let Natasha Romanoff handle it. Professor Connors can already mass-produce lizard serum and supplementary medicines. It would also be good to use some quotas in exchange for some extraordinary resources in SHIELD. Phil Coulson, I still need to think about joining S.H.I.E.L.D. for a while before I decide. Well, I'll ask my assistant secretary, Miss Natasha Romanoff, to contact you later. In view of your S.H.I.E.L.D's good intentions, I will ask Natasha Romanoff to open more genetic debugging slots for you. How about it? Ren the God's telekinesis sensed that the president was already heading towards the hall, and neatly interrupted Phil Coulson's words. It was obviously a gentle discussion tone, but it had an irresistible feeling. Phil Coulson. In front of the other party, it seems that he is always suppressed by something. Just when Phil Coulson was extremely depressed, accompanied by several real Secret Service agents and 2 senior military officials, America's current president strode into the hall. First, an official speech with righteous words. Then there was a banquet-style free exchange. In essence, this is just a high-end banquet held inside the White House. Although the banquet was a bit boring, Ren was also personable and communicated with some people at the banquet based on the idea of taking advantage of others. Lizard serum and genetic agents, plus Midtown West Manhattan development interests. With these 2 hands, Ren can be regarded as a more conspicuous presence at the banquet. About half an hour later, accompanied by General Ross and Governor Andrew, the president, who looked very friendly on the surface, also shook hands with Ren very cordially, had 2 drinks, and chatted for a while. Wait until you are separated from Mr. President. Ren held a piece of chi-chi in his hand and came with a happy smile on his face. Things progressed more smoothly than Ren imagined. With this touch of energy from Mr. President, it would be much easier to deceive Norman Osborn and the assassins outside the White House. The White House banquet lasted until late at night. When Ren noticed that Norman Osborn had disappeared into the hall, he suddenly laughed. Then, Ren inadvertently came to a location close to Mr. President. Graft. A leaf blinds the eyes. 2 small spells that were not very profound were activated. There was a strange change in the chi of Ren and Mr. President. This kind of exchange will not be noticeable at close range, and people around will not mistake Ren and Mr. President. But as long as it is more than 10 meters away, Ren will be regarded as Mr. President and Mr. President will be regarded as Ren. And that's enough. No matter how good Norman Osborn and Stern were, they would never be able to arrange Lucian, Craven, Mrs. Gao, Sloan, and others within 10 meters of Mr. President. In addition, it is simply impossible to conduct long-range sniper attacks inside the White House. Therefore, this wave of assassinations must be mainly peripheral shootings from the Assassin Mutual Aid Association. Only when the peripheral shooting fails, those vampires, werewolves, and ninjas will start to surround and kill Ren. Just as Ren expected. Shortly after Norman Osborn disappeared, Ren could already feel the murderous intent coming towards the east room of the White House. After entering the hall, these people just mixed in with the peripheral crowd and could not get too close to the center. After all, those Secret Service agents around Mr. President are not just for free. And when these assassins arrive, Ren was keenly aware that Senator Stern, who had been in the center, was preparing to evacuate. This guy is really afraid of death. I'm afraid that I might be implicated in the assassination plan. Congressman Stern, don't leave in a hurry, the show is about to begin. Mr. Sullivan, what's the show? I don't understand. Congressman Stern, don't deny it, don't be anxious. After all, you don't want your HYDRA identity to be exposed, right? Ren held the wine glass in one hand and calmly took off the HYDRA emblem on Stern's collar with the other. Stern's somewhat chubby face suddenly turned pale. That's not the plan. I just drank wine, sang songs in my heart, and watched the other person around. How come HYDRA's identity was even exposed? Damn it! Just when Stern was getting more and more panicked. But Ren patted the other party's shoulder, pointed to the outside, and said, Congressman Stern, don't be afraid, it's safe here. You see, your people still take good care of you. Follow Ren's hand and count. With just one glance, Stern's face was not only pale, but also broke out in a large amount of cold sweat. Among the peripheral crowd, Sloan, X, Cross, Firefox, Gunsmith, and others from the Assassin Mutual Aid Association were all staring at Mr. President with extremely sharp eyes. The Secret Service agent has begun to take precautions, and the atmosphere is tense. Shit. Boom. Chapter 52. As Stern uttered a word with great despair, a series of gunshots rang out. Almost all the people in the Assassin Mutual Aid Association have ancestors who played with guns. Adrenaline and arc ballistics are the signatures of these top assassins, and they are as extraordinary as any. Sloan, and the moment the gunfire rang out, the Secret Service agents rushed towards Mr. President like crazy. Enemy attack, someone assassinated the president. Fake, fire. Catch them. Ah, crazy, how did these crazy people get in? More than a dozen Secret Service agents in the hall surrounded Mr. President tightly, and no one knew whether Mr. President was alive or dead. The remaining Secret Service agents began to fight frantically with the Assassin Mutual Aid Association members. Gunshots rang out, and the entire banquet hall instantly turned into a battlefield. At the same time, outside the hall, a large number of Secret Service agents poured in like a tide. But just before the encirclement of those Secret Service agents took shape, some vampires, werewolves, and ninjas hidden among the crowd began to transform one after another, and suddenly attacked the unsuspecting agents and killed them indiscriminately. Ordinary human elites go to war with extraordinary creatures in the dark world. The whole scene was almost one-sided. However, the White House is, after all, the most rigorous political center in America, and its defense has always been more than just Secret Service agents. In fact, these Secret Service people are just the innermost core circle of defense. No one expected that a large number of assassins and dark creatures could sneak into the East Room of the White House. There is no doubt that Senator Stern and Norman Osborn played a big role in this. A killing. Under the resistance of those Secret Service members who almost went forward one after another without fear of life and death, the innermost Mr. President finally managed to get support from the inner and outer circles of the White House. The FBI, Army Command, DC SWAT, etc. rushed into the hall one after another. The scene suddenly started to get heated up. At this time, Representatives Wren and Stern, also under the protection of the Secret Service, followed Mr. President and evacuated from the East Chamber battlefield. Is Mr. President okay? The situation is not good. The President was shot twice and needs emergency treatment. Damn, where's the doctor? Hurry up and let that damn doctor die. If something happens to Mr. President, no one will be able to live well. After coming out of the battlefield in the East Chamber of the White House, a large number of special police officers formed a protective circle of huge amounts, and well-trained army troops set up simple defenses. Fortunately, after some inspections, it was finally determined that Mr. President's life was not in danger. But even so, the scene was still extremely chaotic. Among the crowd, Senator Stern was completely numb by now. Stern had no idea why those damn monsters that he had originally discussed with him suddenly changed their targets and attacked the president. Those assassins and monsters sneaked in through their own channels. If you are not careful, even the organization behind you may be implicated. Damn it! A whole monster. What a beast! Mr. Stern, it's not time to despair yet. Guess where Norman Osborn went when he suddenly disappeared? Ren gave Stern a teasing smile, and his low and soft voice was like the devil's prodding, as if he was trying to pull Stern's soul into the abyss. And just when Stern was getting more and more frightened, a very low buzzing sound suddenly came from the sky above Bai Mansion. Immediately afterwards, a shadow riding a devil glider, wearing green armor and a devil helmet, appeared in the air not far away. You know those damn monsters can't accomplish much. Die and become the first wraith under the great green goblin. Satan is watching you. When everyone is unprepared. The glider under the green goblin seat had already stretched out 2 gun barrels and spit out 2 terrifying fire snakes. The large caliber armor-piercing bullets instantly tore apart the shield formation formed by the surrounding special police. And before the FBI and army defenses could react, the demon glider had already passed over the heads of a group of people in an instant. Several pumpkin bombs bounced around and landed among the simple defenses. Boom boom boom. The ultra-high mobility, violent firepower, and powerful defense make the Green Goblin extremely arrogant even when facing hundreds of nearly fully armed SWAT and military forces. What the hell is this? Has the White House been leaked into a sieve? Where are the anti-aircraft weapons and our prevention and control measures? Sir, most of the White House's prevention and control measures are aimed at the periphery, and it is difficult for our current prevention and control measures to restrict this small individual flight weapon. It is too flexible. Then lift the damn gun in your hand and shoot it down. The sound of gunshots, bombs, wild laughter, and roars echoed throughout the White House. But at this moment, Ren was standing not far away with Stern, like a transparent man, watching this scene that was comparable to a Hollywood blockbuster. Not enough people have died now, and Mr. President is not desperate enough. Only when you save Mr. President at the most critical moment, will the other party be grateful to you. Only when Mr. President is saved at the most desperate moment will the other party hate the assassin. Only in this way can Ren win over the entire Osborn Group with the lowest cost and maximum benefits. Ren looked at the super blockbuster in front of him with great interest. At this time, Stern, after experiencing a series of ups and downs, finally calmed down and glanced at Ren furtively. All of this is the other party's mischief. The other party knew everything, but just watched helplessly as he and others jumped into the pit. Plop. After thinking about all this, Stern knelt down directly in front of Ren. Mr. Sullivan, no, Master, I am useful. I know many secrets of HYDRA. I have many connections in the White House, the military, the FBI, hearings, and public opinion. What happened today was not my idea. It was Alexander Pierce. He wanted to annex the Presbyterian Hospital and the Sullivan Group and seize the Master's lizard serum research results. I know where the headquarters of the Assassin Mutual Aid Society and the Hand are. Chapter 53. In the White House, the Army Command, FBI, SAR SWAT, and even the Secret Service were fighting endlessly. The vampires, werewolves, and ninjas that have infiltrated inside are all very difficult to deal with, and they are even countered by the Green Goblin, who is extremely lethal and threatening. These people are not saying that they would give up their own lives just to kill our president. But something went wrong with the assassination plan. At this time, Craven, Lucian, Mrs. Gao, Sloane, and others were all trapped in the White House. If they wanted to escape, they must create enough chaos. On the contrary, Ren, who was supposed to be the protagonist who was assassinated, used a few tricks to cover up his anger and was very leisurely. Stern was still kneeling in front of Ren, racking his brains to talk about his use. Tell me, how are you going to get out of this whirlpool? Conquering a core executive of HYDRA is still of some use to Ren at the moment. Especially Stern, who has been lurking in America for decades and has extremely large connections and influence in politics, business, and legislative circles. As long as Stern can escape from this White House assassination incident, then Ren will be able to play a great role in taking over the Osborn Group and transforming the Kowloon territory. Plus Stern is able to use some of the power of HYDRA and SHIELD. Conquering the opponent is far more cost-effective than killing the opponent. As for why Ren doesn't use magic to directly control the opponent, then we have to mention the particularity of today's stitched world. As early as half a year ago, Ren had received a lot of information from many sources and knew that there was a genetically modified food on the market that was specifically designed to target mutants. In other words, this Marvel world has at least some of the settings of X-Men, Days of Future Past and Wolverine 3, Fight to the Death stitched together. America's officialdom, the military, and even major forces around the world have all been terrorized by mutants. Therefore, all major forces have some defense methods specifically aimed at mind control. Otherwise, why would Ren think of ways to continuously strengthen his power within the rules? Wouldn't it be simple to directly use control methods to directly control the top leaders of all parties around the world? The Western supernatural system is also not weak in terms of playing with the soul, fiddling with the spirit, and controlling the mind. God sex, devil sex, and even the notoriously barbaric pantheon of Nordic gods all have extremely high attainments in the aspects of spirit, soul, and soul. The same goes for HYDRA. In the HYDRA organization, there is a branch leader, Dr. Faustus, who has extremely high attainments in spiritual aspects. Every member of HYDRA has restrictions similar to psychic protection. The higher the level, the more sharp the precautions. In Stern's case, Ren had previously tried to control the opponent with the soul-seizing puppet technique. But when Ren the God's telekinesis tried to penetrate the opponent's sea of consciousness, he soon realized that once he used the method of coercion, the opponent's soul would inevitably collapse. Only then did Ren stop Stern and take him to watch the whole process of his trick. It's okay if you can't use coercive methods. This feeling of defeating the opponent's will bit by bit and killing people is quite a sense of accomplishment. Ren's methods are so magical that Stern doesn't know that he has already wandered around the gates of hell several times. Hearing Ren's question at this moment, Stern suddenly became ecstatic. If the other party can ask him how to escape, it means that he has a chance to survive. They are different from those HYDRA members in the middle and lower classes who have been brainwashed and become fanatical. For HYDRA core executives like Stern, there are very few extreme fanatics. Most of them have their own calculations and extremely burning desires. The desire to survive is naturally one of them. It's just a double agent. This is what I do. HYDRA, the Senate, the White House, the Legislative Committee, the military, the FBI, which force in America does not have its own presence. What does it matter if there is another master on top? With a strong desire to survive. Stern's mind started working quickly, and soon his eyes lit up and he said, "Master, I can go and reveal the identity of Norman Osborn to Mr. President. He is the Green Goblin flying in the sky. I was just bewitched by Osborn. I had no idea that he wanted to assassinate Mr. President. I am just a loyal person who was deceived by a hateful businessman. I can at least influence more than 200 million votes. Mr. President will definitely forgive me. There are also the Secret Service, the military, the FBI, the legislators, etc., they all have my friends." I have to say that Stern is indeed a capable person, who can be said to be versatile and good at dancing. As long as there is no direct evidence or witnesses. According to Stern's statement, coupled with the connections he has built, it will not be difficult to escape from it. As long as the benefits are in place, no one will care about Stern's small mistakes. After all, Stern was just blinded by Norman Osborn, wasn't he? Ren looked at Stern with a deep look, and with his backhand he shot a talisman of life and death directly into the opponent's body, and the two chi of yin and yang took root in the origin of blood. This kind of person is not very easy to control. He is cunning, and fears power rather than virtue. It's better to put shackles on the other party first. The immortal version of the life and death talisman does not involve the mind, spirit, or soul, but directly functions on the origin of yin and yang in the human body. Almost instantly, an unprecedented itching feeling spread from deep within his bone marrow. It was extremely itchy, but it was also accompanied by a dull pain. Even if Stern scratched himself with blood dripping from his body, he could not organize it at all, and a feeling of powerlessness, like drowning, continued to spread in his heart. 10 minutes later, Ren finished explaining the various functions of the life and death talisman very calmly, and then casually unlocked the restrictions on the other party. It's just 10 minutes. Stern's whole body was as if he had been fished out of water, and he was visibly thinner. This is excessive sweating and dehydration. But even so, Stern still struggled and crawled at Ren's feet, and the little thought in his heart that he would rebel immediately after escaping disappeared. Sensing the change in the other person's mentality. Then Ren spoke up and said, "Be a little embarrassed, and then Mr. President will believe in your loyalty. In addition, after tonight, I will launch an acquisition of Osborn Group. I want the Osborn Group, but I don't want to pay for it. What do you think we should do?" Stern said tremblingly, "Master, I will tell Mr. President that Norman Osborn has defected to the Dark Parliament. This is treason. The Osborn Group will be completely frozen and judicially auctioned. I have people in the Legislative Committee and the Supervision Bureau. When the capital is verified, the Osborn Group will be insolvent. Chapter 54. Stern is a professional at betraying allies, framing people, disrupting justice, and playing with capital. It only took the other party less than 5 seconds to come up with a set of methods to freeze assets, falsify property, split projects, force auctions, and transfer debts. Norman Osborn was blamed for the president's assassination. By the time tonight's events are over, all Osborn Group's properties will definitely be frozen. When the time comes, Stern will mobilize his connections to falsify the asset valuation of the Osborn Group. When the Osborn Group's accounts come to the authorities and banks, it will be insolvent. The bank will then issue a notice to separate the Osborn Group's properties and projects for auction. Before the news is released, Wren can make arrangements in the stock market in advance. After the auction begins, Stern will sell the high-quality properties and projects of the Osborn Group to the Sullivan Group under the false pretense of inferior quality. The project properties that really drag down the Osborn Group will be bought by others and the debts will be transferred. At that time, Wren will integrate the acquired project industries and relist it under a different name. In the whole plan, as long as it is done well, people might not spend a penny and still make a fortune. This kind of routine is very euphemistic to say that the bones are removed and the marrow is sucked out. Just listening to it makes one's teeth sore. Hey, the beneficiary is yourself. That's okay. This kind of plan is much easier than the lobbying, persuasion, threats, and kidnapping of major shareholders that Wren had prepared before, and it does not harm his reputation. That's right, work hard and the master will marry you a mistress later. Are you happy? Happy, master, I'm so happy. Just be happy. Go ahead and show your loyalty to Mr. President. Okay master, thank you master. With the help of Wren's magic, Stern soon appeared in the hail of bullets on the battlefield, but miraculously, he entered Mr. President's defense circle without any harm. Immediately afterwards, Stern began to cry and express his grievances and loyalty. Mr. President, it's my fault, it's all my fault. I trusted that treacherous BD Norman Osborn and he lied to me. Mr. President, the Green Goblin flying in the sky is Norman Osborn. He has defected to the Dark Council. Because in the past 6 months, the military has intentionally transferred Osborn's orders, and he wants to take revenge on the White House. And the secondary physical strengthening potion developed by Norman Osborn can make people turn into demons. They went too far and tried to kill me. Several vampires chased me. Mr. President, look, I've lost weight in just a few minutes. Stern cried with runny nose and tears. Even amidst the roar of guns and cannons, Wren could hear each other's wails from all this distance. Mud, the Oscar winner is nothing more than that. Wren could even see that, in just a few moments, under Stern's sharp tongue, the Army commander, Secret Service director, and FBI commander had already begun to persuade the president. Look at that posture, wait until the matter is over. Not only does Stern have no faults, he might even get a Medal of Valor or something. And just when Stern showed his loyalty and courage, stayed calm in the face of danger, and obtained the conspiracy. Wren's the God's telekinesis has also noticed that there are a large number of national defense forces outside the White House, and they have begun to gather in the direction of the White House. It won't be long before the battlefield here will be completely wiped out by the national defense forces. This kind of credit for saving Mr. President cannot be robbed by others. After Wren glanced at the battlefield, he was ready to go out. He rubbed the bone bead chain in his hand, and after thinking about it, Wren decided not to use magical powers for the time being. Although the Bone God Demon and the Blood God Sword are powerful, their image is not very good. Magical powers and the like are too mysterious and can easily arouse covetation. Although people today have no fear of official power, their own spiritual path ultimately depends on human society to collect resources. The Superman from DC next door is strong enough, isn't he subject to all kinds of concerns, coercion and moral kidnapping? Except not as Superman, but as an ancestor. Otherwise, once you show Superman-level strength, it will not be easy to integrate into society. Superman, Wren is not interested. Ancestors, Wren are equally uninterested. Cultivation of immortality means cultivating the mind. Human nature can sometimes be domineering, but more often than not, it is calm and gentle, preferring peaceful days. It is enough to show some respectable fists, economy, and power. Thinking of this, Wren quickly restrained his magic power and energy, and walked out of the invisible state, revealing extremely powerful physical strength. Boom! 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 The cultivation level in the foundation building stage, even without the use of magic power, the physical strength is enough to stun people. In the extremely dense line of fire, Ren was extremely flexible and killed one vampire, werewolf, ninja, etc. with his bare hands. Even the bullets of the ultimate sharpshooters in the Assassin's Mutual Aid Association cannot hurt a single hair of Ren. Oh, my god, it's Superman. No, it's Batman. It's the Flash. Shit, the Flash is so fast. What's in his eyes? Why didn't you say he was Wonder Woman? Stop talking nonsense. The comics are all fake. That's the chairman of the Sullivan Group. Sir, I understand. He is the ghost spider who has been very popular recently. I have seen the video of Spider-Man. He is also so sensitive. He is so sensitive that all the bullets can't hit. Fart, the Daily Bugle has a high-definition photo of Spider-Man. That's a woman. Sir, is it possible that Chairman Sullivan is a woman disguised as a man? Fake, who are you? Are you trying to harm me by lurking next to me? There are discerning people among the crowd. Yes, Ren also had an idea and prepared to impersonate a wave of Spider-Man. There's no rule anyway, there can only be one Spider-Man. What's more, the current ghost Spider-Man is none other than his little girlfriend Gwen. There will be traces to follow when people investigate her in the future, making her very credible. Definitely, and most importantly, Spider-Man's power level is just right. It is strong enough, but will not arouse excessive covetousness and fear from the authorities and other forces. And after the Osborn Group is taken care of, Ren Original has plans to launch a series of spider serums similar to the Lizard series of genetic potions. Anyway, whether to launch it or not, and when to launch it, is up to you. The problem is that the research results are not yet complete. Nothing wrong. It's a new week, please collect it, ask for flowers, and ask for comments. Chapter 55. The special police, army soldiers, FBI agents, etc. in the White House are not just idlers. The commotion was so intense this time just because someone was involved and the president was shot, so everyone was caught off guard. When the Ren version of Spider-Man joined the battlefield and pinned down the enemy's elite, the soldiers from all sides in the White Mansion quickly boosted their morale and launched a counterattack against those extraordinary assassins. Under this situation, those extraordinary assassins no longer insisted on causing chaos and retreated, but directly swarmed and broke out in all directions. Seeing this scene, Green Goblin in midair was immediately confused. Unlike those assassins on the ground, Green Goblin flies in midair. That's it inside the White Mansion. The anti-aircraft weapons in the White Mansion didn't dare to fire at all. But if he wanted to fly out of the air, he would be a pure target. The anti-aircraft weapons measures in the White House are not weak at all. Anti-aircraft machine guns, anti-aircraft guns, electric thermal guns, high-energy lasers, and even surface-to-air missiles. Many of the things here are manufactured by the Osborn Group. Norman Osborn knew all too well how powerful these weapons were. Norman Osborn's original plan was to appear in the form of Green Goblin and help vampires, werewolves, ninjas, assassins, etc., to stir up chaos in the White House. It would be best if you can kill Ren Sullivan and at the same time take action yourself and kill Ross from the military. Then, taking advantage of the chaos, he took off his equipment and blended in among the guests. But when those vampires, werewolves, and ninjas ran away, he turned out to be the queen of the end. There is no sense of loyalty these days. Just when Green Goblin was feeling sad and angry in midair. But Ren, who had already eliminated most of the werewolves, used a sprint to kick off a courtyard pillar, and like lightning, he threw the Green Goblin down from midair. Boom! 2 figures, plus a family of demon gliders, directly smashed a landscape tree. After Green Goblin fell to the ground, his mind was still buzzing. Ren stood up quickly and shouted angrily, "Norman, why did you do this? Why did you surrender to the Dark Council? Why did you want to assassinate the president? Damn it, you were my idol when I was in college. Why don't you do your research well? Even if I am superior in biological genetic research and put you under great pressure, why do you want to fall?" Before Green Goblin could speak, Ren had already jumped up and hit his opponent with a set of martial arts fists. Thanos was able to rely on his military strength to punch the Hulk into isolation. It's okay to beat the Green Goblin to autism yourself. Ren didn't want the other party to tell the truth about the assassination at this time. If the president knows that these damn assassins are here to kill Ren, and he suffers the consequences, then he will overturn the situation. As for whether any of the other assassins will escape and leak the secret, never mind. Anyway, as long as tonight is over and tomorrow, no one will believe what those assassins say. If you say that, you are throwing dirty water on yourself because you ruined the other party's plan at a critical moment. No one can stop Ren's violence and anger. After all, the Green Goblin was really ferocious before, killing many people with its powerful firepower and pumpkin bombs. After a while, Ren and the Green Goblin battled each other, and soon arrived not far from the demon glider that fell in the landscape trees. Driven by Ren's mana, the demon glider quickly rose secretly. "Mr. Sullivan, be careful. He's going to make a sneak attack." "Mean." After the demon glider secretly rose, it quickly pierced Ren's back like an arrow from a string. At this critical moment, Ren did a very cool backflip on the spot. Puff! The sharp blade at the front of the demon glider pierced Green Goblin's chest. Ren half knelt down on the glider in a very British manner, and looked at Norman Osborn's eyes slowly clearing up, with an extremely blank look on his face, and he sighed slightly in his heart. "Idol, don't blame me. According to the plot, you will die like this before long. Hey, I have a good heart and cannot bear to see my idol suffer." Ren conveniently turned the god's telekinesis into spikes and crushed the soul of Norman Osborn into pieces. Now there won't be any bloody resurrection of the villain plot. Well, it seems that the idol also has a son. Forget it, eradicate it, it's a bit too vicious, let's just turn it into an idiot. A noble student of immortality, he himself is a cultivator of immortality. Demonic methods and immortal mind cannot be affected by those demonic methods. "Mr. Sullivan, are you okay?" "Sir, don't be too sad. No one expected this." "Yeah, this is all the other person's fault." A group of soldiers who survived the battlefield quickly came to Ren and began to persuade him. Ren jumped off the demon glider with a frustrated look on his face. At this time, the FBI on-site commander also came to Ren and patted Ren on the shoulder. Ren's expression was depressed and a little confused. "I just acted casually, these people really believe it. No matter what, it's all a matter of favor." Ren was sad and depressed for a while, but he quickly cheered up and came to the president. At this time, "Mr. President, because he had been trapped on the battlefield for too long, even if the bleeding was temporarily stopped, he fell into a coma. A group of belatedly arrived White House doctors are performing simple treatment on Mr. President." Seeing this, Ren looked a little nervous and said, "General Ross, is Mr. President okay?" Ross gave Ren a friendly look and said, "The problem is not big, it's just excessive blood loss, and the bullet didn't hit the vital point. Speaking of which, I really want to thank you this time, Ren. I will tell the President when he wakes up. In the West, when someone calls you by your first name instead of your last name, you are considered a relatively close relative or friend." General Ross's words also revealed a kind of goodwill. Ren nodded and started talking with the Army Commander, Special Service Director and others who came here specially. After they got to know each other well and left their contact information, Ren soon took some time off and headed to the resting place under the leadership of 2 Special Service members. With such a big thing happening in the White House, even if Ren is a friend, he cannot leave for the time being. But it doesn't matter. Ren found that it was quite interesting to show off his acting skills to others like this occasionally. Let's go back and discuss acting skills with Gwen and Natasha Romanoff. Such as teachers, flight attendants, investigators, etc. Gwen is relatively young and has little social experience, so her acting skills may not be very good, but there is also Ghost Spider who can perform in her true colors. Natasha Romanoff is amazing, she was a spy, asking for collection, asking for flowers, and asking for evaluation. Chapter 56. On the outskirts of Daxia district, in a very secretive bar. Bullet casings, smoke, blood, broken walls. Harry, Truly, a high-level FBI agent who is about to retire, lights a cigar with a hot red barrel, and then throws away the heavy machine gun in his hand. Immediately afterwards, Harry pulled out a special revolver used for hunting elephants and put it in the bar owner's mouth. "Eric, the news you gave me made me very unhappy, you know. I will retire tomorrow, but you made me a laughingstock of the general administration. You ruined my perfect retirement plan, do you understand? Now tell me, who ordered those monsters to attack the White House?" I want to listen to the truth, otherwise, I will stuff this restricted barrel into your %. Nueva, in a building filled with smoke. John, Die Hard, who is already somewhat bald, still has a few traces of blood on his face. In the building, there were dead men almost everywhere, except for a middle-aged Japanese man in a kimono, huddled in the corner like a little girl who had been abused all night. John breathed heavily and picked up a gift box from the rubble. Mr. Sato, if I were you, tell me why the Tegakai wanted to assassinate the president. Damn, I was going to celebrate my daughter's birthday today. Relax, man, keep breathing deeply. It is said that this can relieve the pain. Yes, that's it. Fake, don't die. I beg you, can you die after you finish speaking? Gallic Chicken Country, an abandoned factory on the outskirts of Paris. A courier boy tremblingly walked into an open space in the factory, looked around, then took out a box and placed it next to the only stool in the open space. Wait until the courier guy leaves. In the shadow of the factory, a hooded man, mission, impossible, just came out and opened the box. In the box, there was only a stack of information and an old-fashioned audio tape. Ethan, the White House in Washington is undergoing a major attack. The matter is very serious and involves the Dark Council. Your mission is to investigate who is behind this incident. It's an impossible mission. Still the old rules, once you are caught, exposed, or something happens, headquarters will not admit anything about you. The major assassination case in the White House came very suddenly, and overnight it became popular all over the country, no, the whole world. The FBI, CIA, S.H.I.E.L.D., various police detectives, secret agents, etc. all started to scratch people like crazy. That's right, many extremely powerful assassins finally broke through and escaped during last night's siege, and not even the defense forces outside the White House were able to stop them. And those assassins who were caught were only responsible for the action and had no idea what was going on. The only leader who was captured, Norman Osborn, also died tragically on the battlefield. This way. No one knows why those monsters from the Dark Council wanted to assassinate President America. However, rumors soon spread that those assassins were trying to assassinate the chairman of the Sullivan Group, killing people through the White House to shock America's official power. The purpose of these assassins is just to compete for the dominance of the underground forces. America's president is nothing more than a disaster because he was mistaken for the wrong person. This is the truth, and it is the wind released by Craven, Lucian, Madame Gao, Sloane, and others who escaped from death. It's a pity that no one believes this kind of news that can't be more false. To the point where investigators such as the FBI and SHIELD feel that the informants they have are simply insulting their own intelligence. The whole world knows it. The extraordinary gunslinger of the Assassins' Mutual Aid Society is famous for his good eyesight, and even Hawkeye has to say something in his favor. Not to mention vampires and werewolves, they all rely on the smell of blood to track them. In this case, it's like admitting the wrong person. This is simply treating all official forces in America as fools. Because of this kind of gossip, on the same day, more than 1,000 intelligence dealers around the world enjoyed America's Iron Fist enthusiasm. Especially the Blood Clan, Werewolves, Hand, and Assassins Mutual Aid Society. Almost in one day, the organizations, strongholds, businesses, etc. of the four forces throughout America suffered devastating blows. Even if a fish slips through the net occasionally, it becomes like a rat underground and has to run away to survive. Especially around the Hyuxia region, all official forces were mobilized to block all escape routes. In the storage room of a supermarket in downtown Daxia, Sloane and Firefox were hiding in a mess among the discarded goods. They were both treating their injuries silently, taking a bite of expired cans from time to time. At this moment, someone quietly entered the storage room. Almost instinctively, Sloane and Firefox held their breath and each picked up a pistol. Not long after, Cross, who was the strongest and least injured, revealed his figure and said, "It's me, Cross." Hearing Cross's voice, Sloane and Firefox breathed a sigh of relief. Firefox put down the gun and continued to deal with the bullet scratches on his waist. Sloane also picked up the can again and took a bite, and said, "Cross, how is X? How is the gunsmith? Has the news spread? When will our people come to respond?" Cross raised his eyebrows and said, "X and the gunsmith are both dead, and now no one will help us deliver the news." Sloane's tone suddenly became sharp and he said, "Why?" Cross smiled bitterly and said, "No one believes that we went to assassinate Ren Sullivan. We are now traitors and terrorists who assassinated the president. All the officials have gone crazy. More than 200,000 troops have gathered in Daxia district and surrounded the entire city. Sloane suddenly became extremely angry and said, "The news we released is true, it is true. Fake, no matter what the world is like now, no one will believe you if you tell the truth. You guys are so messy. The assassins of the Mutual Aid Association are extremely powerful, and have adrenaline burst skills. Their experience of walking on the line of death for many years has resulted in the most people escaping during the encirclement and suppression. But even so, only Cross was barely able to move, and was considered a minor injury. In comparison, the other three parties were much more miserable. The Hand and the vampires were the most tragic, with almost all of them killed. Mrs. Gao disguised herself as a demented old lady and hid in a nursing home. Serena was seriously injured and relied on the strong vitality of the vampire to hide in the cave. The werewolf side was pretty good and was able to return to human form. In the end, more than 10 people escaped and hid in the underground tunnel. Chapter 57. In the White House, no one cared about the tragic situation of the assassins. After the task was assigned to various power agencies, senior White House officials began to discuss how to eliminate the impact of the assassination and restore America's majesty. Even the president, who was shot twice, jumped into it as soon as he woke up. As one of the parties involved, Ren was fortunate enough to participate in this supreme meeting. And in order to take care of the injured Mr. President, this meeting had to be moved from the conference room to the president's nursing ward. Fortunately, Mr. President's treatment is still very good, and the space in the nursing ward is large enough to accommodate a large number of America's senior executives. The Vice President, 3 military generals, the Director of the Secret Service, the top commander of the FBI, etc. Among the crowd, Ren unexpectedly found 2 acquaintances. Security Council Representative Alexander Pierce, and current SHIELD Director Nick Fury. A meeting that lasted more than 4 hours. If Mr. President hadn't been injured and needed to recover, it might have lasted longer. The whole meeting was noisy, but not many decisions were actually made. The military, Secret Service, FBI, police, etc. all use the name of investigation, revenge, and restoration of reputation, but in fact they are competing for power and profit. There is no doubt that this will be a huge political struggle and game. Some people will be unlucky, and some people will increase their power. As for Mr. President, he is still alive, right? No one can predict to what extent this political struggle will evolve and last, and for how long. On the contrary, Ren had planned to be a transparent person and just get through the meeting silently, but unexpectedly, he got several big orders. Mr. President's miserable appearance finally alerted all of America's layers. Since the Second Industrial Revolution, it has been 200 years since the Dark Council was gradually suppressed by human officials. Although the assassination operation by the Blood Clan, Werewolves, Hand, and Mutual Aid Society ultimately failed. But the combat power displayed by those extraordinary dark creatures of the Dark Council is truly astonishing. Ordinary human elites, even if they are fully armed, have basically no ability to resist when facing those extraordinary dark creatures. America's upper-class big men can't go out with an army at all times. As a result, the Lizard series of genetic medicines that appeared in Ren's Presbyterian Church laboratory became the first choice of all parties. Portable, stable, powerful, and even cheap enough. Not to mention comprehensive promotion among all forces, it will be okay if no one has a few genetically modified super bodyguards. In this extremely enthusiastic attitude from all parties, Ren has made billions of dollars with tears and blood. At this point, all forces are still thanking Ren in various ways. In particular, the President, the military, the FBI and the Secret Service all said after the meeting that all parties would give the green light when Ren acquires the Osborn Group. The Osborn Group is so rude. Norman Osborn should be nailed to the pillar of shame. In return, when Ren is ready to take out part of the interests of West Central City. The President looked very excited on the hospital bed and said that he would never accept a penny from Ren, otherwise he would look down on himself and America. The Toolman President obviously also has a temper. As soon as he was shot, these bastards made various excuses to share the benefits in their hands. So Mr. President would rather not get any benefits than drag others down. Ren Sullivan is such a good person, and he is also his savior. It is better for the savior to reap the benefits than for others to share the benefits. Mr. President has made his position so clear. How can other representatives such as the military have the nerve to ask for benefits from Ren? But it doesn't matter anymore, it's just an Osborn Group. Although Mr. President was seriously injured and temporarily unable to act as director, he still had influence over the other party. If the President is offended too harshly, it would be bad if Mr. President plays a dirty trick in this power-sharing feast. Anyway, Osborn Group is not owned by us. With so many favors and promises. Ren stayed in the White House for another 2 days, more or less, giving a gift to all parties. The rest is left to Congressman Stern to handle. However, just after Ren settled everything, just after he came out of the White House, the vehicle was suddenly intercepted before it had even driven a block away. "Phil Coulson, it's very rude to stop a car on the street. What's the matter?" "I'm very sorry, but Mr. Sullivan, our director has something to ask. If it is convenient, I would like to ask Mr. Sullivan to go to our bureau headquarters." "What if it's inconvenient? Do you want to fall out with the Sullivan Group?" "This. Haha, Phil Coulson, you are so honest." "I'm just kidding. In fact, I have wanted to see the true face of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a long time." After a conversation, Phil Coulson looked awkward. But soon, Phil Coulson calmed down his expression and led Ren's team. The convoy headed towards the Trident building where S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters is located. At the moment, Ren was thinking about what Nick Fury wanted to say to him. "The last time I had contact with Phil Coulson, I politely declined the olive branch extended by SHIELD. It is unlikely that the other party will invite me to join S.H.I.E.L.D. again. After all, he is not Tony Stark. His original involvement with S.H.I.E.L.D. is not deep, and he has not shown too much power. Could it be that he guessed that he was going to plot the assassination incident in the White House? Impossible, the opponent's intelligence and analysis capabilities are not that powerful. That leaves only the personal problem of Nick Fury, a black braised egg. No matter in the Marvel movies, Nick Fury is a person with very strong suspicion and a very strong desire for control. Blood Clan, Werewolves, Hand, Mutual Aid Association, etc. had previously ambushed me in Niu for half a year. This time in the White House assassination incident, he was also a party involved. Coupled with the almost ridiculous truth that came out from the mouths of those intelligence dealers before. With Nick Fury's level of cunning, it's normal for him to doubt himself. I just don't know how serious the other party's suspicion is. If it affects your future development, should you directly eliminate the other party? Forget it, let's take a look first before talking. Chapter 58. The Trident building is located on a street not far from the Washington Monument. It is majestic and grand. However, S.H.I.E.L.D. these days is far from as powerful as it would be in later generations. Nick Fury is truly a natural agent. In the movie world, it didn't take long for him to expand S.H.I.E.L.D.'s authority again and again. Definitely, it does not rule out that in its development process, there are reasons behind HYDRA's secret efforts. After entering the S.H.I.E.L.D. building, at the first moment, Ren noticed the dense crowd of eyes focused on him. It is different from the normal gaze of ordinary people. Almost all of these S.H.I.E.L.D. agents were looking at a large number of people out of the corner of their eyes. For this, Ren is not surprised. Under the leadership of Phil Coulson, Ren quickly arrived at a reception room on the top floor of S.H.I.E.L.D. as if he were going home. As soon as Fang entered the room, he saw Nick Fury wearing a black windbreaker, standing by the window pretending to be noisy with his hands behind his back. "Mr. Sullivan, look at all these living beings, each one has a different mission and responsibility. The White House, the military, businessmen, and citizens all work together to achieve the current situation of prosperity and strength, where all ethnic groups peacefully coexist. But not long ago, this situation was broken. Blood Clan, Werewolves, Hands, Mutual Aid Associations, these extraordinary creatures in the dark should not appear in the public eye, which will bring huge amounts of turmoil and terror to the entire society. Panic if we have enough power to fight extraordinary creatures, then this situation can be avoided." After talking a lot of words, Nick Fury finally turned around and stared sharply in Ren's direction. In a sense, this can be regarded as a method used by Nick Fury to use the situation to oppress. If it were an ordinary person, the other party's remarks might actually have some effect and even deceive people into living. It's a pity that Ren is a pure practitioner, with a Taoist heart and unparalleled determination. Facing pressure from Nick Fury, Ren smiled naturally, crossed his legs, and said calmly, So Director Nick Fury, what do you want to say? Could it be that you want to use moral kidnapping to make me hand over the genetic medicine in my hand? Or is it that S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to recruit me as well? If I don't agree, S.H.I.E.L.D's cannons will be aimed at my Sullivan Group. Well, how about I show how to beg for mercy in a panic? The two sides faced each other tit for tat, their gazes clashing in midair like swords, and even the smell of gunpowder smoke filled the air. This is just a test. Ren can clearly feel that behind Nick Fury's seemingly strong appearance, there is a fierce look but a soft heart. As expected. After a while, Nick Fury naturally changed the topic and said, Mr. Sullivan really loves to joke. S.H.I.E.L.D. is not a robber. I am just inviting Mr. Sullivan again on behalf of SHIELD. If Mr. Sullivan doesn't want to, then forget it, I just feel extremely sorry. See Rui's attitude softening. Ren also smiled lightly and said, I see, I misunderstood Director Nick Fury. I just don't know. Director Nick Fury asked someone to stop him and invite me over. Is it just for this? Nick Fury's pupils narrowed and he said, definitely not. In fact, Mr. Sullivan, I want to purchase a batch of genetic medicine from Presbyterian Hospital in my own name. If possible, I would like the deal to be closed confidentially. Definitely, as a business, I can also give Mr. Sullivan some rewards within the limited scope of my power. Oh. Ren raised his eyebrows and said, I wonder what the reward Director Nick Fury is talking about. Nick Fury stood opposite Ren and said, Mr. Sullivan should know that S.H.I.E.L.D. is not just an American organization, but is directly under the Global Security Council. Something is wrong, very wrong. As far as Ren knows, Nick Fury is not a businessman. Even if the other party wants to get more genetic medicine, they will not do it through such a secret deal. What's more, I'm afraid they are constantly infiltrating, stealing, planning, etc. into the Sullivan Group. At this moment, the Taiyin jade ring between Ren's fingers quickly transmitted the main road information. Honey, S.H.I.E.L.D's Nick Fury showed up for a date. The other party wants to investigate the real conflict between us and the Dark Council, and at the same time hopes to insert some spies into the Presbyterian laboratory. The person who sent the message was Natasha Romanoff, who had completely transformed into Ren. After getting the news, Ren also understood. As expected, Nick Fury never had any good intentions and let people drag him to the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters in Washington, but he secretly invaded the Presbyterian laboratory. Then the Nick Fury who appeared in front of him should be the Skrulls taken in by SHIELD. I have to say that the shape-shifting disguise ability of these Skrulls is really sharp. If the other party hadn't acted too deliberately, plus the message from Natasha Romanoff, no one found anything wrong. But now, after getting the known results, Ren used the magic eye technique to look into the other party's soul, and he saw a green-skinned alien. Substituting one thing for another, hiding something from the truth. Nick Fury knows tricks and played a good trick. But unfortunately, the other party's actions are destined to get nothing. After Longju Island was built, with money, Ren had already moved Professor Connors and his laboratory to the underground hive on Longju Island. If it weren't for the underground palace beneath the Presbyterian Hospital, there would also be a vampire farm and a bone demon abyss. I'm afraid even the entire Presbyterian laboratory will be completely disbanded. Agree to his request and let him explore the Presbyterian laboratory as he pleases without exposing yourself. Ren turned the lunar jade ring between his fingers with his right hand and passed it to Natasha Romanoff for a reply. After doing this, Ren looked a little eagerly at the fake Nick Fury in front of him. If you remember well, in Captain Marvel, these Skrull refugees should have a spaceship left on the Earth. Nick Fury raided his lair, and he was also eager for the other party's secret backup plan. It's fair for everyone to exchange stolen homes. Chapter 59. Nick Fury wanted to use the Skrulls to drag Ren to S.H.I.E.L.D. and secretly invade the Presbyterian laboratory. For the sake of the Skrulls' spaceship, Ren naturally wanted to give the other party a chance. It took most of the day. By the time Ren came out of SHIELD, it was already approaching evening. It would be a bit late to go back and renege on the appointment at this time. So Ren simply took the people and checked into a high-end hotel in Washington, giving Nick Fury enough time to completely reassure him. It was approaching late at night. Ren completely refined the soul breath collected from the Skrulls into a jade talisman. With such a jade talisman, Ren can sense the whereabouts and location of the Skrulls anytime and anywhere. If only the Skrulls had stayed in SHIELD. If one day, the Skrulls want to return to their home base, the spaceship will definitely enter the Earth to pick them up. At that time, it will be your chance to take action and capture the spaceship. Moreover, Nick Fury used a trick to delay and allow himself to stay in Washington for one more day. I also happened to go and clean up the few little mice that escaped from the chaos in the White Mansion. The ghosts of the 5 yins wrap around people. The 5 ghosts skywalking technique allows Ren to wander in the void like a ghost without anyone noticing. Not long. Ren has already crossed most of the city in 860, and first came to a nursing home near the suburbs. Without anyone noticing, Ren sensed the aura from MRS Gao and quickly entered a room where many people lived together. Most of the elderly people here are lonely elderly people with poor economic conditions. Because the elderly here can bring very little profit to the nursing home, the management here is also quite lax, making it very convenient for Mrs. Gao to hide. In fact, this is the most brilliant thing about Mrs. Gao. Even if all the federal agents were put together, who would have thought that Mrs. Gao, who has one of the 5 fingers in the hand, would live with a group of lonely and poor old people? Wait until things blow over. Mrs. Gao died of an illness in an accident and used money to bring her Japan back to her hometown. Mrs. Gao was able to escape Washington's pursuit and siege easily. But it's a pity. Mrs. Gao, however, neglected to calculate Ren's existence. While Mrs. Gao was still immersed in her perfect escape plan, unknowingly, the originally noisy room suddenly became quiet. Almost instantly, Mrs. Gao stood up and looked around with great vigilance. Who? When Mrs. Gao stood up, she soon saw a tall and straight young man with a handsome face and an elegant temperament not far away. Ren glanced at Mrs. Gao with disgust, not wanting to say anything more to her. Mrs. Gao has the purest evil and karma in her body. Murder and treason, murder and arson, human trafficking, human sacrifice, poisoning of corpses, etc. Mrs. Gao and the hand she belongs to really don't do anything at all. Even his soul is filled with corruption, demonic evil, cruelty, treachery, and other karma. Death is simply a gift to such people. It would be appropriate to go back and refine a picture of the underworld drinking and feasting, filling it with its soul, carrying demonic karma, and refining the yin god. A long time ago, Ren actually had the idea of refining a picture of a banquet in the underworld, but he lacked the materials. The underworld drinking banquet picture is one of the most powerful treasures of the Yama demon sect in the Luofu world. It uses a fragment of one's own soul as the core to refine the weapon spirit, which is the lord of the underworld. After the weapon spirit is formed, the souls of people with evil karma will be found to fill the underworld. When the evil spirit enters the picture, its true spirit is used to carry its own demonic nature and bad karma. Its soul is used to refine the yinshan and strengthen the underworld. When the time comes to respond to the enemy, the underworld drinking banquet diagram is unfolded, and the overwhelming underworld water and the evil spirits of the underworld gush out. It is extremely powerful to defeat all the evil spirits and demons. People take the path of immortality, but they practice many magic methods. The bones of dead man are used to refine the bones of gods and demons, and flesh and blood are used to cultivate blood transforming, CDDJ, magic swords and ghosts of the 5 yins. There are even gangster forces, in vivo experiments, and breeding of blood clan. These will breed a lot of evil thoughts and karma. Even if there is a pure yang golden bell that can suppress one's true spirit and soul and maintain one's character, one still needs to relieve and eliminate one's own hidden dangers. The picture of drinking and feasting in the underworld is the best thing to carry it. It's just that Ren has never been able to find a suitable extremely evil soul. Now that we have a suitable extremely evil soul body, we can start the refining plan of the underworld drinking banquet picture. You know, the lord of the underworld loves to practice, but the yin god who drinks banquets is hard to find. As the saying goes, the green snake's bamboo mouth and the back needle of the wasp's tail are not poisonous, but only the heart of a woman. Madame Gao is extremely vicious, cruel, and ruthless, but it can be used to refine the wasp, one of the top 10 evil men. Yin Shen. And just when Ren had this idea, the same person who was frightened felt an unprecedented malice. Mrs. Gao has a martial arts background and once practiced in Kunlun. At the moment, the martial arts spiritual sense was stinging, and he couldn't bear it any longer, bursting out a large amount of infuriating energy, rushing towards Ren. Having lived for hundreds of years, Mrs. Gao's martial arts realm was not high, but her cultivation was quite profound. When he pounced in the air, before he could reach his body, his terrifying energy had already split the ground into a 3-foot ravine. Caught off guard, even if the Hulk was hit like this, it would probably hurt for a long time. But it's a pity. Mrs. Gao met Ren. Regardless of its speed, strength, or chi, etc., in Ren's eyes, they are all full of flaws. Immortal cultivation is all-encompassing, including martial arts, warfare, etc. Although Ren has not dabbled in those aspects, his vision is not something that Mrs. Gao, who has only power but no realm, can threaten. Puff! Just point in the air. With just a touch of magic power from Ren, Mrs. Gao's whole body's true energy collapsed, and she fell from mid-air, just kneeling at Ren's feet. Mrs. Gao, when you came here to kill me, you should have thought of such a consequence. Are you Ren Sullivan? If you answer correctly, you will be rewarded by becoming the first Yin commander under my command, the Wasp Yin God. As Ren stretched out his hand, Mrs. Gao couldn't even let out a scream, and her entire soul was forcibly restrained. Demonic fire roasts, karma burns, and souls are separated. Mrs. Gao's spirituality was quickly thrown into a river of death, bearing the torment of demonic nature and karma for others. And its soul body is constantly flowing in Ren's hands, forming a ghostly shadow. I thank you 8 generations of ancestors. Chapter 60. There are many extraordinary means in the hand. For example, a 5-fingered existence like Madame Gao can be resurrected as long as the body is preserved. However, after Mrs. Gao's true spirit and soul were detained and refined, there was no possibility of resurrection. And the underworld drinking banquet picture is also a combination of magic weapons. It is both a magical power and a magic weapon. It's not that people don't want to refine some authentic spiritual treasures like those righteous immortal sects. But in this Marvel world, there really is fairy material. Only the Demon Deo Ghost sect and others have low demand for materials, and can use living creatures to refine methods and weapons to achieve a treasure that combines methods and weapons. So Ren is actually very helpless. When the picture of the underworld drinking banquet took shape, Ren quickly poured a ray of soul into it, becoming the lord of the underworld. Immediately afterwards, Ren waved gently and put the picture of a banquet in Huangchuan into the Zifu. This wave, the harvest is pretty good. With this picture of a banquet in the underworld, after collecting some evil souls, I can be a little more relaxed in my actions in the future. Anyway, Mrs. Gao and other evil spirits will carry the demon's flame for her. Hey, I am really a good person. An extremely evil person like Mrs. Gao came to assassinate her, but she didn't even destroy her body and soul, but she still retained her spiritual existence. After taking care of Mrs. Gao, Ren quickly used the 5 ghosts to travel through the void and arrived somewhere in the underground sewers of Washington, D.C. In that underground tunnel, more than a dozen werewolves headed by Lucian were rummaging through garbage. Although these werewolves were relatively lucky, they escaped from the White House. But as a price, these werewolves had more or less serious injuries on their bodies. Although this kind of injury is not fatal to the werewolf's strong recovery power requires a huge amount of energy replenishment. The most intuitive way to replenish energy is to eat a lot of food. If they were in their own territory, these werewolves would definitely have no shortage of food. But now Lucian and others are wanted by America's officials, so these werewolves don't even dare to go to the outside world at night to steal some food. So I had to dig through the garbage in the underground tunnel. Next to the garbage pile, there were several piles of homeless bones covered with large tooth marks. This is the real dark creature. Even though werewolves can walk around the world in human form, at their core, they are not the same species as humans. They are wolves, with extremely savage animal nature. It's fine under normal circumstances, but once they're in trouble, the bestiality of these werewolves becomes apparent. And cannibalism is the worst kind of animal nature. What a bunch of evil beasts! A sudden sound resounded in the underground passage. When Ren appeared not far from the group of werewolves, the werewolves' eyes suddenly turned green and they began to transform into werewolves. Don't take the blood and food, it's mine. Fart, I saw it first. Ouch. After a group of werewolves transformed, their wildness and bestiality surged again, and they even looked like real giant wolves, running towards Ren on all fours. Only Lucian remained upright, but his mouth was drooling. It's quite a good group of materials. Seeing the werewolves rushing towards him, Ren shook his hands slightly, and a string of bone beads fell to the ground, turning into 36 skeleton demons, and immediately rushed towards the group of werewolves. At the same time, Ren took a step forward, shrank into an inch, and came to Lucian's side. Boom! That's when Lucian's beast instinct activated and its claws waved. Ren was very neat and tidy, smashing the opponent's skull to pieces and extracting his soul. Demonic fire roasts, karma burns, and souls are separated. Follow the same process. In just a few minutes, a leopard-tailed yin god suddenly appeared in Ren's picture of the underworld drinking feast. Together with the wasp yin god, he sat high on the underworld stone platform and started drinking. And in the trickle of yellow spring below the stone platform, Lucian's spirituality was also eroded by the demon's flame karma. This karmic fire of the demon's flame does not harm spirituality, but only brings endless pain. When this kind of pain accumulates to a certain level, the spiritual thoughts will turn into evil spirits with boundless viciousness. Looking at Lucian, who was wailing in the underworld, Ren also sighed and said, "I know you are lonely and suffering, so don't worry, your tribe will come to accompany you soon, please give me flowers." As he spoke, he was surrounded by the black mist formed by the skeleton demon not far away. Following a burst of chewing sounds, the strength of the 36 withered bone demons increased greatly, and they wrapped around a dozen werewolf souls and landed on Ren's wrist. The souls of more than a dozen werewolves were thrown into the underworld feasting scene for processing. Ren nodded with satisfaction, and then walked away following the positions of Sloane, Cross, Firefox, and others. Killers and their like are also good materials for evildoers to accumulate karma and cannot be wasted. Although the 5 Ghost Sky technique is not as fast as Camartage's Spark Portal, it is better than being concealed enough. A few minutes later, Ren appeared in a warehouse, a supermarket near downtown Washington. I have to say that these hands, werewolves, and killers are all better at hiding than the other, and they are all talented people. Who? Just when Ren appeared in this shopping mall warehouse, unexpectedly, before Sloane could react, Cross and Firefox were already rolling with guns extremely keen, hiding behind the bunker and looking at the direction of the city people. This behavior of the other party immediately aroused some interest in people. You must know that although the 5 yin ghosts driven by Ren are still just prototypes, they are definitely the darlings of the void and darkness. Even the Ancient One may not be able to see through Ren's location in person. If the 5 yin ghosts are fully realized and become the 5 yin celestial ghosts, they travel through yin and yang and break the restrictions. Even the immortal golden immortal may not be able to detect it at all. But now, 2 mortals, Cross and Firefox, can actually detect where Ren is. In fact, even Nasloan was much stronger than extraordinary creatures like Madame Lucian. That's right, in Ren's eyes, Sloane, Cross, Firefox, and others are just ordinary mortals. The matching skills of adrenaline and arc ballistics can only threaten mortals. There must be something strange and magical about these assassins. Otherwise, no matter how keen the perception is, even spider telepathy, it is impossible to detect the existence of the 5 Ghost Sky technique. Chapter 61. In the dark supermarket warehouse, Ren slowly emerged from the void. The moment Ren appeared, Nasloan, Cross, and Firefox were already preparing to shoot and attack Ren. But before those 3 people took action, a calm and confident voice sounded first. "I advise you not to take action. Anyone who takes action against me will die." Standing tall and proud, Ren plays with several jade charms in one hand and holds the other behind his back. Even when facing 3 guns and 3 sharpshooters, Ren's tone remained calm, filled with a sense of tyranny and domineering. In martial arts, there is an old saying that a master should never be insulted. In the world of spiritual practice, or even anywhere else, the principles are actually the same. The strong are the only ones who deserve to be respected and respected. 360 Sloane, Cross, and Firefox are all killers who have been wandering on the line of life and death all year round. They have already honed an intuition that is similar to whim. Especially under the pressure of Chi machine from a strong foundation builder like Ren. The 3 people who had tensed their bodies and were ready to attack at any time suddenly released their triggers. You will die, you will really die, there are no accidents or other possibilities. In this case, Sloane, as the leader of the Mutual Aid Association, was the first to make a decision, gave a secret signal to Cross and Firefox, and then walked out from behind the bunker. "Your Excellency, I don't know. Put down the gun so you can talk to me, otherwise, die." Sloane's words were only half spoken, and a sharp breath of energy was already directly pressed against the other person's throat. Ren didn't move, he just activated the sword intent of Tianhe Zhenfa. For a moment, Sloane's whole body froze on the spot. The feeling of fear was like a fine electric current flowing straight up from the root of his tail and into his scalp and mind. Cold sweat breaks out again and again, and the hairs stand on end. Sloane very carefully put down the firearm in his hand, and even threw away the hidden weapons hidden in his legs and feet. After putting down all resistance, the sharp feeling that was pressed against Sloane's throat gradually subsided. Call. Sloane secretly exhaled a long breath, became more cautious, and changed his words in awe. Your Majesty, I would like to express my most sincere apology to Your Majesty for my previous wrong decision. What's more, we didn't hurt me in the slightest bit, right? As a killer, target investigation, and so on are basic qualities. So when Ren appeared the first time, Sloane and the other two people actually recognized Ren's identity. After all, in order to assassinate Ren, the Mutual Aid Association had been preparing for more than half a year. Ren's handsome face has long been engraved in the minds of all the killers in the Mutual Aid Association. It's just that these assassins from the Mutual Aid Association didn't expect that Ren was far more powerful than they imagined. Listening to Sloane's words that were almost begging for mercy, there was no disturbance in Ren's heart. He opened his Dharma eyes and kept looking at the three of them. There is indeed a strange power lingering in the souls and wills of those three people. That kind of strange power is similar to fate and cause and effect, and it also has a flavor of faith. The loom of destiny. When Ren noticed this power, he suddenly thought of the loom in the movie Wanted that could weave the destiny command. Although in the movie, Sloane becomes the villain and starts making profits by using the loom of destiny. But it does not mean that the loom of fate is fake and does not exist. In fact, at the end of the movie, Sloane took out a large stack of information, showing that the loom of destiny had predicted the names of those assassins long before Sloane's blacken. Whether it is destiny, karma, or faith and foreknowledge, there is no doubt that the loom of destiny must have some mysterious and extraordinary manifestations. Today, the magical power in the souls and wills of Sloane, Cross, and Firefox is the most intuitive manifestation. As expected. After Ren suddenly mentioned the loom of destiny, Sloane, Cross, and Firefox all changed their expressions. Sloane struggled for a long time, and a touch of bitterness and determination appeared on his face. Your Majesty, we can hand over the loom of fate to Your Majesty to atone for our sins. Sloane. Senior citizens. Before Sloane finished speaking, Cross and Firefox could not help but duck out. There is no doubt that compared to Sloane, the Cross and the Firefox have a purer and firmer belief in the loom of fate. This is the reason why the strange power of Cross and Firefox is even more powerful. Ren guessed that this magical power was actually the real reason why the assassins of the Mutual Aid Association were able to burst out with adrenaline and turn bullets. Something like shaking a gun is more like a spell that activates the mysterious power of oneself. And firm belief is the way of practice of the mysterious power star. The belief in the Cross is the deepest, so at its strongest, breaking out at 8 kilometers is like cheating. Firefox also committed suicide and was martyred at the end of the movie, so he turned the bullet to create a lock effect. But this little power is nothing in front of people. When the Cross and the Firefox became agitated, Ren stretched out his hand and simply used a immobilization spell to completely immobilize the two. Seeing this scene, Sloane became even more calm. The Cross, the Firefox, it's not that I want to give up the loom of fate, but it has already given up on us. Haha, I know you two don't believe it, but it's true. 1,000 years ago, during the Crusades, the Crusaders discovered the Blade of Time and the Loom of Destiny in Jerusalem 1.1, thus establishing the Creed. For hundreds of years, our ancestors acted according to the Creed and smoothed the waves of fate. 200 years ago, when the Creed split, the founder of the Mutual Aid Society came to America with the Loom of Destiny. And not long ago, it showed our name, it was everyone, including the Hashisan order. We followed its instructions and it abandoned us all. Speaking of this, Sloane also had extremely violent mood swings and a ferocious look on his face. It's obvious that Sloane also had loyalty, steadfastness, and faith. However, when fate gave up, Sloane's loyalty, firmness, and faith collapsed, and he even felt betrayed, and began to transform into Blacken. Chapter 62. The strange power of destiny, cause and effect, belief and foreknowledge, etc., are mixed together, let's call it a creed. The power of the creed is obviously the extraordinary source controlled by the assassins of the Mutual Aid Association. At this moment, Ren was observing with Dharma eyes and could clearly see the fluctuations in power on the bodies of Sloane, Cross, and Firefox. When Sloane recalled the past, his faith was firmer and the power of his creed grew rapidly. But when Sloane's emotions exploded, he felt betrayed, and he completely gave up his faith, the power of the creed stopped growing at all, but it did not weaken either. Similarly, in the cross and the firefox, the fluctuations in the power of the creed are also obvious along with Sloane's narration. This way of growing strength is similar to visualization. Only by truly believing and constantly deepening the visualization in the inner sea of consciousness can power be derived from it. In essence, the power of creed is actually a kind of mutated spiritual power that is biased toward destiny. In the well-known Luofu world practice system, there are many similar practices, such as Taoism, Buddhism, etc., each with its own unique conception method. For example, visualize Taoist gods, visualize Buddhist bodhisattvas, visualize the Great Sun and the Golden Crow, etc. 23. To be honest, this is the first time Ren has seen the power of contemplating destiny. It can only be said that this so-called creed organization and mutual aid organization are really a group of lucky barbarians who obtained extraordinary things with their own laws such as destiny and time. Then, due to their fanatical beliefs, they accidentally found a way. A very crude method of cultivating visualization and practice. It is this invisible cultivation that allows these people to develop spiritual power with the attributes of creed. Through this kind of spiritual power, physical power can be temporarily exploded, and the trajectory of bullets can be affected, etc. Wonderful, really wonderful. People don't care about the power of this creed's soul. On the contrary, the destiny loom and even the blade of time are much more interested. And just when Ren's thoughts were flying, Firefox, who was originally locked in place, suddenly experienced a sharp increase in the power of the creed in his soul and will, and was able to break away from the influence of the immobilizing spell. Sloane, what are you talking about? I will kill you. After Firefox broke away from the immobilizing spell, his palms even trembled as he pointed his gun at Sloane. On the surface, Firefox didn't believe what Sloane said was true. But in fact, subconsciously, Firefox has already decided to die for his faith. Under this kind of firm belief that almost burns everything, Firefox's creed and spiritual power grow at an alarming rate. And in this belief that is almost burning, Ren tried his best to activate his magic power and temporarily upgraded his Dharma Eye to the Sky Eye state. He vaguely saw a thread of faith spreading from the Firefox into the void, as if it was connected to an unknown existence. This is not an unknown being giving Firefox power, but more like a symbiotic relationship. After a moment, more than half of the mana was consumed. Ren also quickly calmed down his heavenly eye state. At this time, Ren became more interested in the loom of fate, and easily lifted the restraining spell of the cross. After Cross regained his freedom, he quickly stepped forward and grasped the barrel of the gun in Firefox's hand. Calm down, Firefox, you need to calm down. FKU, calm down. I couldn't calm down. It was fate that saved me. If fate showed up on our list, that would be the best arrangement. Firefox roared almost hysterically. Whether it was the cross or Sloane, they fell silent all of a sudden. Sloane felt that he was only 70 years old and could at least live for another 20 years. It would be a pity to die. Cross felt that although he was not afraid of death, he still had a big boy, so why not commit suicide by martyrdom? Seeing the three people deadlocked, and couldn't help but cough slightly. The three of them suddenly froze. Then Ren said, strictly speaking, the life and death of the three of you are up to me. As he spoke, Ren waved his hand, and the gorgeous pistol in Firefox's hand suddenly broke free and fell into Ren's palm. Ren thought for a moment, raised his hand slightly, and the environment of the warehouse changed drastically. The ceiling is moving and getting brighter, the ground is growing, and steel targets appear in mid-air. This is a spell that Ren figured out by himself based on the mirror space of the Ancient One. Ignoring the stunned expressions of Sloane, Firefox, and Cross. After the shooting range was formed, Ren weighed the firearm in his hand, and then fired. The bullet made an arc, hit the bullseye on the spot, and made a dent. Arc ballistic technique, the exclusive secret technique of the Mutual Aid Association. Seeing this scene, Sloane, Firefox, and Cross's jaws almost dropped. This is impossible. Nothing is impossible, it's just an application of the power of the mind. Psychic power. Yes, the so-called creed is a kind of spiritual power with unique attributes, and your understanding and application of spiritual power are too rough. Just between the words. Ren no longer shook his hand, but changed his movements slightly and fired 3 shots in succession. The first shot was still an arc ballistic, but the speed of the bullet was several times faster than before. The second shot was still arc ballistic, but the power of the bullet directly penetrated the 3-layer steel 420 iron bullseye, which was several times more powerful. By the third shot, it was no longer arc ballistic, but the bullet followed Ren's idea and kept bouncing in the extremely dense shooting range until it finally hit Ren's target. After 3 shots, Sloane, Firefox, and Cross were all stunned. Your Majesty, the power of Creed in you still has great potential that can be developed. It can not only hit the target with an arc, but also accelerate, increase attack, increase hit, and even add lethal attributes, etc. Your Majesty, do you control your destiny? Destiny? Are you kidding? No one can control destiny. In other words, the strong can control everything, just like a person can control everything of an ant. The only thing that can be controlled is power. Impossible. Running the loom is fate, then it was controlled by you for 1,000 years? Guess, during this 1,000 years, how many lists were arranged by fate, and how many lists were arranged by the person who controls the loom of fate? Firefox and Cross were completely stunned. And Sloane's already dark face became even hotter, feeling like he had been dissed. Just report it to my household registration book directly, why bother to be so polite? Chapter 63. There must be extremely magical and special extraordinary power on the loom of destiny. Otherwise, assassins from the Mutual Aid Association such as Sloane, Firefox, and Cross would not be able to turn bullets even if they practiced for another 100 years. The bullet turns, no matter how you explain it, it is not scientific at all. If it is not scientific, it can only be explained by metaphysics. However, it is a pity that those who have mastered the loom of destiny for thousands of years have not devoted themselves to exploring how to strengthen and master this power. On the contrary, after mastering a little bit of power, greed began to attack. The true power of the loom of destiny is hidden, and those in power begin to use faith to achieve their own goals. Belief, taking power, greed, being overthrown, changing people, the cycle starts again. Based on information provided by Sloane. For 1,000 years, almost every leader of the Mutual Aid Association who controls the loom of destiny will appear on the loom of destiny's list. The greater the ability, the faster the list will be updated. In Ren's opinion, this destiny loom is probably contaminated with the power of destiny, but it is extremely rigid, like the legendary artificial retardation. In the process of weaving, it predicted the waves of destiny. But the person who masters it is originally one of the sources of waves. That's why there are constant incidents of Mutual Aid Association assassin leaders appearing on the list. According to Westerners, you will talk about why you cannot look directly at fate. When you look directly at fate, fate is also watching you and so on. In Ren's opinion, this is a bunch of idiots. Having found the existence of power, it is simply stupid to not think about controlling it and explore it, but to be dominated by it, even fearful. But in any case, this loom of fate deserves special attention. There was even a vague idea in Ren's mind. The immortal path that I once deduced for my subordinates will eventually be implemented on this loom of fate. All the support for the path of immortality and magic is the list of gods. If you want to refine the god list and carry the divinity of your subordinates, you need materials with attributes related to fate and luck to refine it. The cloth woven by the destiny loom must have certain special characteristics. Considering that Sloane, Firefox, Cross, and others are more familiar with the loom of destiny, Ren didn't kill all 3 of them directly. Instead, after intimidating the 3 of them, they gave them a chance to surrender. For the way of life given by people. Naturally, Sloane immediately knelt down, opened his mind, gave up any resistance, and allowed Ren to leave a restriction in his soul. Cross and Firefox were firm believers and were originally prepared to die rather than surrender. But when Ren mastered the power of Creed in an instant, the 2 people also became hesitation. After thinking for a long time, the 2 finally chose to surrender. Firefox, an almost fanatical martyr, even said that as long as Ren can completely master the loom of fate, then his faith can be completely transferred to Ren in the future. It probably means something like dedication. Although Firefox still retains Yuan Yin's body, Ren doesn't like some of the other party's style, so he decisively defeats the other party. However, what Ren didn't expect was that Firefox's belief had become so fanatical that it almost distorted his personality. Firefox said on the spot that even if she wasn't a regular girlfriend, she could just be a slave girl. It's similar to RBQ. After saying that, the other party still inadvertently licked his flaming red lips. I have to say that aside from tattoos and seemingly wild behavior, Firefox's red lips are very sexy. Mud, Isn't this teasing your own weakness? What man can withstand such teasing? With a few rejuvenation charms, the injuries on Sloane, Cross, and Firefox were cured. Then Ren asked Sloane and Cross to go back and renege on the contract on their own, and stabilize the entire mutual aid association first, waiting for Ren's subsequent incorporation. Immediately afterwards, Ren took Firefox directly into the sky. After taking down the assassins from the Mutual Aid Association, those who dared to attack him in the Beifu assassination incident have basically been dealt with. In Ren's induction, there was only one vampire left with a very refreshing breath. Originally, Ren was planning to kill it as well. But after seeing Serena hiding in a basement of the slum, Ren suddenly changed his attention. This vampire, Ren has an impression of, comes from the underworld movie world. The origin of Selena's vampire clan was a being who was infected with the plague in the European Middle Ages, but through his own evolution, he had perfect blood. The moment he saw Serena, he had a sudden impulse. This perfect blood may be of great help to Professor Connor's gene integration experiment. Once Professor Connor's gene integrate experiment is completely successful, Ren can not only perfect genetic medicine, but also produce a group of powerful subordinates. At the same time, the data from the gene integration experiment will also be helpful to Ren in cultivating the 5 elements spirit insects and cultivating the 5 elements earthly evil chi. But for Serena, Ren doesn't have the patience to deal with assassins from the Mutual Aid Association. After walking out of the void, Ren just stretched out his finger to immobilize Serena directly, and then the Taiyan jade ring between his fingers shimmered, wrapping it with the ghosts of the 5 yins and putting it directly into the space of the jade ring. After doing all this, Ren took Firefox back to the hotel. Fanatic believers, followers, RBQ, etc. make people very angry. And, Zhao, Firefox is also a good gamer after his faith transfer. He wanted to play a game of Nun to God for Ren on the spot, but the scale was a bit exciting. No one refused, he just cast a purification spell. Directly remove the messy tattoos on the Firefox. At the same time, the extremely thick makeup on the other party's body was also cleared away. It was only then that Ren discovered it. At this time, Firefox is probably not yet 20 years old, he is really young. Phew, that's not the point. Ren, wait. Firefox, what's the matter? My lord. Ren, are you 18 years old? Firefox, yes, my lord, today is my 18th birthday. Ren, that's a coincidence, come and put the lipstick on. Firefox, follow your will. Chapter 64. The next morning, the first ray of morning light shone into the hotel's penthouse suite from the huge amounts of floor-to-ceiling windows. Ren incorporated a touch of green pure yin energy that had not yet been refined into the Taiyan jade ring, and then began to breathe in the purple energy of the morning sun. The foundation of human immortality is the refining of qi from the stars. The energy of the sun, especially the special energy of the Chaoyang purple energy, is particularly important to people. So generally, as long as there is nothing important, no one will miss this period of practice. Wait until Ren finishes breathing in the purple energy of the morning sun. At the moment, Firefox was wearing Ren's pure white shirt, swinging his long legs, and had already prepared tea and breakfast for Ren very obediently. Then, with an expression of fascination, reverence, and fanaticism, Firefox helped Ren get dressed. Before, Ren is still a bit reluctant to like Firefox. But after experiencing the maid service from such a fanatical believer, Ren can only say, it smells great. But it's okay to experience Wenro Township once in a while. Cultivation is important, career is important. After half a morning of fun, Ren quickly received a call from Natasha Romanoff. The message is no longer sent through the lunar jade ring. This proves that Nick Fury has most likely evacuated from the Contract and Presbyterian laboratory. Dear, Nick Fury installed a PhD in biology in the laboratory. He left in the early morning. When will you come back? Go back today and let the manager of the Sullivan Group make arrangements to prepare to accept the Osborn Group. Dear, are you a little anxious? Our funds. Norman Osborn is dead. He has been labeled a traitor and a terrorist by the White House. The entire Osborn Group will be frozen and split up. Someone will cooperate with us in the subsequent auction. Okay, I will give the order, but dear, don't you miss me? I definitely thought about it, I love you, okay? Giggle, my dear, you are so perfunctory, but I love you too, okay? In my spare time, it is very pleasant to flirt with a woman like Natasha Romanoff who is very good at it. All the way on the phone. Not long after, under the arrangement of Firefox and the people below, Ren and his group arrived at the airport unimpeded and entered the private plane, HYDRA. And along the way, Ren also understood why Firefox wore very voluptuous makeup before. It turns out that after removing the makeup, Firefox is really a different person. Even the inspection at the airport failed to discover that Huo Fox was one of the assassins in the Japanese incident. It can only be said that every killer has some tricks. 3 hours later. New York, Manhattan, Sullivan Building, Chairman's office. After Ren had detailed discussions with a group of managers, he quickly handed over Stern's contact information to Natasha Romanoff, and asked Natasha Romanoff to take the lead in splitting and taking over the Osborn Group. Wait until the matters in the group are settled. Ren had just summoned Frank and John, and led a team of super lizard warriors, led by Firefox, to a remote textile factory in Queens. This textile factory with a somewhat ancient atmosphere is the headquarters of the Mutual Aid Association. And when Ren arrived at the textile factory, Sloan, who had recovered from his injury and had secretly returned to Washington to renew his contract, received the news early and brought a large number of Mutual Aid Association members to greet Ren's arrival at the door. Sorry, the matter has been settled, and all unfavorable factors have been completely eliminated. Very good. The textile factory will be merged into the Sullivan Group in the future. If the Destiny textile machine can be used to great effect, you will be exempted from all responsibilities. Following your will, just a member of this Mutual Aid Association. You will still be the leader. From now on, you will be treated the same as Frank and John. Thank you for your gift. We will become the bullets in your hands and destroy every enemy for you. Okay, just take me to see your destiny. After saying that, Ren strode forward, under Sloane's guidance, towards the most important core of the entire textile factory. Today's Ren, after experiencing the White House incident. The White House, the President, the military, the Secret Service, the FBI, etc. all owe Ren a great debt of gratitude. It can be said that Ren is destined to be the underground king of America. Even as early as when Ren was still in the White House, many American underworld overlords, such as the Continental Hotel, Hell Angel, the Triads, the Mafia, etc., had already shown favor to Ren. People don't care about the position of the underground king and how much monetary benefits it can bring to them. But if we can suppress all the underground forces in America in name only, this is also a very good channel for collecting resources and intelligence. In this case, integrating the entire Mutual Aid Association is also in line with Ren's next development move. I do not care what time. People, money, guns, etc. are all indispensable things. What's more, the core members of these mutual aid groups are no worse than Frank and John, and the other members are no weaker than Ren's action team. Definitely, if Ren's men were injected with lizard serum, that would be a different story. After a few words, the entire Mutual Aid Association was incorporated. Under the leadership of Sloan, Ren soon came to a huge factory building deep in the textile factory to work as a minister. The factory building is relatively empty, with only one extremely slender and complex textile thread. A row of fine and tough white silk threads, like a long river, finally converged on a simple and mysterious textile loom in the center. After his eyes touched those white silk threads and even the loom, almost immediately, Ren sensed the mysterious power of the creed again. Many laws such as destiny, cause and effect, foreknowledge, and belief gather together. The complicated and narrow white river passes through each node, forming a magical passage that is similar to a rune circuit and an array pattern. This channel sorts out all fate, cause and effect, prediction, etc. After finally gathering on the loom of destiny, weaving was integrated with the power of faith contributed by all members of the Mutual Aid Association, and finally formed into inch-by-inch pieces of cloth. But Ren can feel it. This rune circuit channel, as well as the power of faith contributed by members of the Mutual Aid Association, have many shortcomings. Lack of spirituality and inferior materials. This resulted in the list given by Destiny Textile Machine being extremely rigid. Chapter 65. In the empty factory building, Ren Fian looked at all the energy routes around him and calculated the loopholes in his mind. Sloan and others, on the other hand, were somewhat uneasy. Whether it is the two staunch believers of Firefox and Cross, or the members of the Mutual Aid Association that Sloan has managed, these people can easily fall under Ren's command. A large part of the reason is that Ren has shown that he can master the power of creed, plus Sloane's various propaganda that Ren is the Pope of Destiny and so on. This was the scene where all the members of the Mutual Aid Association respectfully welcomed and surrendered. In this case, if Ren cannot show his due strength, something will happen. Your Majesty, this loom of fate. Seeing Ren standing steadily in the factory, Sloane's voice was trembling and he asked a little. Sloane's voice quickly brought Ren back to his senses. After taking a look at N.A. Sloane, Ren instantly understood what the other person was worried about. Immediately, Ren manifested his magic power and outlined a rune projection in mid-air. With a wave of his hand, Ren superimposed the rune with the Destiny textile assembly line in the entire factory. The power of Destiny needs to be corrected. Arrange manpower and rearrange the deviated textile process. Ren Fian has only been observing the loom of Destiny for a short time, and he has not yet understood many things in it. However, with extremely advanced knowledge of Tianfu Yun seal script, it is not a problem to slightly perfect the embodied rune circuit formed by the gathering of a large number of strange laws. In Ren's opinion, this so-called Destiny Guide and Destiny List are of little use. But it is not difficult to completely conquer the hearts of Mutual Aid Association members by slightly improving this Destiny rune circuit. Along with a large number of manpower, the textile process was relocated. Not much time. In the entire textile process, the waterfall formed by the white silk thread perfectly overlaps with the runes outlined by Ren. Immediately afterwards, Ren shot out a ray of light and disappeared into the loom of fate. This spiritual light is one of the methods recorded in the Jade Record Treasure Refining Seal of the Yuking sect in the Luofu world. The Jade Record Treasure Refining Seal is the top weapon refining method in the Luofu world. In addition, the Destiny Loom has been passed down for thousands of years, nourished by the power of fate, cause and effect, time, faith, etc., and it has become the prototype of a rare treasure. Under the nourishment of a stream of mana. After Ren's initial refining, a strange hazy halo quickly appeared on the Destiny Loom. Along with the surge of light, the entire textile process shines. Under this radiance, every thread inside seemed to be coated with a layer of pale gold. The potential of the Destiny Loom and even the entire Destiny Rune is activated. Everyone who sees this scene can't help but feel as if they have disappeared into the long river of time. Especially those members with firm beliefs in the mutual aid associations, after seeing this wonderful sight, the power of their creed increased rapidly. Even those shallow believers soon became devout believers. That's right, the essence of this mutual aid association is actually an assassin organization with a religious nature. The majestic power of faith echoes the surge of light above the loom of destiny. For example, Firefox, Cross, and Sloane, the original extremely rough concept in their minds quickly formed a complete concept of destiny. The rapid increase in the power of creed leads to the growth of physical strength. Wait until the mana is consumed. The halo on the loom of fate gradually disappeared. Everyone present has experienced some changes and improvements to a greater or lesser extent. Among the hundreds of members of the entire Mutual Aid Association, more than half of them have directly mastered the skills of epitonin and arc ballistics. It can be said that this wave of gains is more than the extraordinary assassins born by the Mutual Aid Association in America for 200 years. Thank you for your gift. Thank you, Lord, for your gift. Boss. The almost miraculous scene completely deified Ren in everyone's hearts. The abstract worship and belief that the members of the Mutual Aid Association had in the loom of destiny were all transferred to Ren. People can even clearly feel that the power of faith is gradually gathering towards them. Just after thinking about it for a while, Ren did not refine the power of these beliefs, but quickly refined a jade statue to carry the power of these beliefs, and then placed the jade statue into the Taiyin jade ring. The power of faith is a kind of power of merit similar to the copycat version. Tiger Bomb is extremely versatile, asking for flowers 00 at the same time. This thing is also an indispensable thing on the path of Shinto. It's a pity that the modeled thoughts of countless believers in the power of faith cannot be eliminated at all. Otherwise, Ren would really be unable to help himself and follow the path of Shinto. The practice of Shinto is much simpler than the practice of Immortal. But it doesn't matter, the power of faith can also be used to cultivate resources on the path of spiritual practice. Whether it is to water the elixirs that he secretly planted on Longju Island, or to use the 5 elements spirit insects and the like, they are all good choices. Spiritual roots, spiritual plants, spiritual medicines, spiritual insects, etc. These things do not need to worry about confusion of consciousness or assimilation of thoughts. After being accelerated and cultivated with the power of faith, the effectiveness will not change at all. If you think about it carefully, this is also a way to accumulate resources. In the past, Ren was worried that practicing religion and competing for followers would attract the attention of multi-universe powers. Now that the world has been raised in dimension, all existences at the multi-universe level have disappeared. In the future, we might as well ask Sloane and others to expand the Mutual Aid Association and establish a destiny cult or something. Destiny guides this thing, it's not just a lie. In terms of religion, the doctrine of the attributes of destiny is very unique. Anyway, I have already left destiny runes here. Even if I take away the destiny loom and arrange a random loom, it can still be used to show miracles, fate guides or something. No problem, the Mutual Aid Association is already on America's blacklist. It would be nice to change the appearance and turn this place into the Church of Destiny. Then let Sloane take the cross, butcher, pesticide, pharmacist, and others to go to war with the European Vatican and the like to rob believers. Well, this is definitely a good idea, it's such a happy decision. Anyway, America and the Western barbarians are not clamoring about cooking in oil every day. Freedom of belief is also possible. After the destiny cult grows stronger and the believers die. With faith, religion, etc. as an anchor, you might be able to harvest a wave of souls, transform them into protectors or something, and go to the dojo to work for yourself. Think of these lambs of believers as paying off the sinful debts of the Western barbarians. Tisk, I am such a good person. Chapter 66. Cultivation is not only seeking immortality, but also seeking truth. After coming to this world and embarking on the path of spiritual practice, Ren has been cultivating a sense of belonging to this world. Without a sense of belonging, there is no anchor point for the soul. Once the power is strong, it is difficult to control the mind. Unfortunately, the results are still not obvious yet. Do people have a sense of belonging? There is definitely some, but not much. So Ren chooses to live a life of extreme luxury, such as this ashram, building a mansion, and attracting beautiful women. The more you enjoy, the stronger your sense of belonging will be, and the stronger your spiritual anchor will be. The current establishment of the Destiny sect is also one of the means to strengthen the spiritual anchor point. Otherwise, Ren is also afraid that one day, he will really become an unparalleled demon and pull off some crazy tricks such as massacre of the universe. This is not something impossible. After all, people have a lot of magical means at their disposal. Gather your thoughts. After telling Sloane the idea of establishing the Destiny cult. Not long after, Ren summoned Stern to the textile factory again. Stern, the doctrine, purpose, expansion, etc. of the Destiny religion will all be handed over to you. From now on, you will be the first pope of the Destiny religion. Sloane, you and the members of the Mutual Aid Association will be the ruling house of the Destiny cult from now on. I hope you two can work closely together to develop the God of Destiny as soon as possible. Recruiting Stern and Sloane to cooperate was Ren's whim. However, after tying Stern and Sloane together, the more they thought about it, the better they became. Stern is a super multifaceted spy, good at dancing and versatile. He has connections in all aspects and can borrow strength and leverage from all sides. Sloane is also an old villain who leads a group of extraordinary assassins and is able to remove obstacles for Stern. When the two sides combine, they can completely support each other and protect each other. What's more, there are Destiny guidance runes left by Ren here. With the abilities of the two of them, it shouldn't be difficult to bring the Destiny cult to fruition. For this reason, Ren even promised that after people achieve results, they will be given longer life, more wealth, stronger strength, etc. After telling the two of them their initial thoughts, Ren quickly refined a statue of the god used to collect faith, and put the Destiny loom away. Collect the idols of faith, which contain a Ren point. The god's telekinesis resides there. After the Destiny cult is established, there will no longer be a killing list, but something similar to dream interpretation and guidance. At the same time, this statue will also guide Sloane and others to practice the concept of destiny more deeply. In the future Destiny religion, the more devout believers are, the more Destiny guidance they will be able to gain from here. Wait until the foundation of the Destiny religion is laid out. Ren quickly left with Firefox, Frank, John, and others and headed to the Continental Hotel. In fact, after returning to the contract, the first thing Ren dealt with was to get people to accept the Osborn Group. Immediately afterwards, people came to the Mutual Aid Association headquarters alone. This is originally the result of people attaching great importance to the loom of fate. You know, in the Continental Hotel at this time, there are representatives of the 13 seats of the Dark Council, all of whom are waiting for Ren's arrival. Others don't know the truth of the White House incident. But those spokespersons for the 13 seats of the Dark Council in the Continental Hotel are very clear about it. The Blood Clan, the Werewolves, the Hand, and the Mutual Aid Society went to the White Mansion to assassinate Ren. But now, it has turned into killing the president. This has also led to the fact that officials from various countries are now very unfriendly towards the Dark Parliament and so on. It's easier to talk about places other than America. Those other countries have nothing to do with themselves, they are just a little more wary of the Dark Council and give some warnings. But on the North American road dominated by America, almost all underground forces have suffered great disasters. Even the Dark Council learned about it through many channels. Today, America has intended to promote Ren as the king of the underground world in the entire North American continent. Therefore, as early as the day after the White House incident ended, the Continental Hotel had already sent out several invitations to Ren. Everyone knows that Ren now holds the sword of Shang Fang in his hand. If Ren doesn't show up for a day, these underground forces will suffer a day of blows from the authorities. You can only get Ren's approval, or force Ren's approval. Only then can all the underground forces, and even the Dark Council behind them, be able to restore their interests in the North American continent. So half an hour later, Ren's motorcade arrived at the New Continental Hotel. Your Majesty, representatives from all parties have gathered at the hotel, and we look forward to welcoming you. Winston, the manager of the Continental Hotel, quickly came over and opened the car door. Ren got out of the car and saw a group of gangsters gathered at the door to welcome Ren's arrival. Brotherhood, Biker Gang, N-Gang, Mafia, Triad, Latin Gang, California Gang, Yamaguchi Group, Kinman Group, Florence 13 Organization, Mexican Wild Dog Gang, etc. Behind these gangs, almost all of them are inextricably linked to the Dark Council. Ren glanced around and found that there were people from the Russian Bear Gang and the Irish Gang from other areas. But Ren didn't say anything more and walked straight towards the Continental Hotel. In the capital country of America, even the country exists in the form of a federation. Like the Russian Bear Gang, the Irish Gang, the Triads, the Mafia, the Latin Gang, etc., they basically get along with each other in a loose alliance between states. The Russian Bear Gang, the Irish Gang, etc. who had broken the contract were all wiped out. It does not represent that the Russian Bear Gang, Irish Gang, etc. in other areas also have conflicts with Ren. If there hadn't been the White House incident, depending on the alliance between their respective camps, the Russian Bear Gang and others in other areas may also be hostile to Ren. After all, they all share the same brand and have the same blood. But when Ren became the king of the underground that the government highly praised and showed enough strength, those contract-breaking gangs that have been eliminated will be expelled from their respective alliances in an instant. The faction alliances in the gangs, and even the Dark Council forces behind the alliances, also have many complicated internal battles. Many people may even be secretly thanking Ren for helping them eliminate their competitors. Moreover, it is impossible for Ren to kill the entire Russian Bear Gang alliance, Irish Gang alliance, etc. with one blow. Chapter 67. Continental Hotel, in the underground conference room. Ren walked directly into the room as if there was no one there, and then sat directly on the first chair with a golden sword, like a king patrolling his territory. Behind Ren were Frank and John, both of whom exuded a fierce aura. Everyone present was not surprised by the domineering and arrogant behavior of the three people. What really surprised everyone present was that Firefox, as the representative of the Mutual Aid Association, also guarded Ren's head in a completely surrendered manner. No wonder Sloan, the old man from the Mutual Aid Association, didn't come. He's a good strategist. Plot? What plot? Did I miss something? Idiot, didn't you see the look in the Firefox woman's eyes when she looked at Ren Sullivan? It's obviously a honey trap. Without shame, the glory of the 13 seats of the Dark Council has been lost. Chixian, you are talking about the glory of Nima. I know in Asia that mutual aid societies will be exterminated if they don't surrender. Yes, I heard that Mrs. Gao, that cautious old lady, has died and can't even do summer work. A group of representatives of their own forces glanced around. However, what was extremely uniform was that before Ren spoke, no one spoke first. Ren didn't care about the performance of these people, he just looked at their origins with his eyes. Blood Clan, witches, werewolves, warriors, dark elves, black magicians, and even people from the Sea Tribe. In Washington, all the elite members from all 4 seats in the Dark Parliament were wiped out, and they were even accused of assassinating the president. The sensation caused by this incident was large enough and spread all over the world. The spokespersons for the 13 seats of the Dark Parliament who gathered again at the new Continental Hotel are also prominent and powerful men in their respective forces. Every being here has an extremely tyrannical aura of energy, with the lowest being at the level of earthly evil. In other words, everyone here is basically a 50-50 equal to Thor in the early stage. This powerful existence, of course, had to be avoided by Ren due to the situation. But in fact, before Ren showed enough power to overwhelm everyone, that kind of avoidance seemed very perfunctory. A group of unruly people. After scanning this group of people, Ren had already made a judgment in his mind. If it were the past, people may also be interested in playing with these strange dark creatures. But right now, Ren still has a lot of things to do. The split and merger of the Osborn Group, the refining and research of the Destiny Loom, the secret exploration of HYDRA given by Stern, etc., all require Ren to spend a certain amount of energy to arrange. So Ren decided to use the most powerful and domineering means to directly frighten these rebellious guys. Boom! 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 Ren's fingertips tapped lightly on the table. When the atmosphere in the whole room was at its most tense, Ren quickly leaned forward slightly, with a sense of oppression, and looked down at everyone in a condescending manner. There used to be a saying in my hometown, which is to go into the house to call people and go into the temple to worship gods. You seem to have not understood the current situation. Barbarians are barbarians. They are really a bunch of guys who don't know what politeness is. Ren's extremely rude words, with an almost humiliating attitude, directly stimulated the atmosphere in the whole room, and suddenly became extremely tense. The strong smell of gunpowder and the noisy murderous intent all became tense at this moment. However, Ren paid no attention to it. After humiliating everyone present, Ren leaned back slightly. Firefox was already very obedient. He took out a cigar, smoked it, lit it, and served it to Ren respectfully. Call. A puff of smoke was blown into the air. Ren looked a little suspiciously at these seemingly unruly guys. Each of these dark creatures has lived for who knows how many years, and they are all as cunning as ghosts. Even if they are openly humiliated, even if many dark creatures are violent in nature. But in this case, no one is willing to take the lead. It can only be said that these people are not stupid. They would rather endure the temporary anger than offend the official Ren Sullivan at this time. If the mountains don't come to see me, I will go see the mountains myself. Seeing that no one was taking the lead, his eyes quickly turned to the Blood Clan elder and the werewolf leader in the room, with a cold smile on their faces. I don't know whether you two are really brave or stupid and don't know it. Do you really think that the matter of assassinating me will be over that easily? Haha, an elder earl and a silver wolf commander, tell me, how do you two want to die? A faint black mist circulates. Ren was stroking his cigar with one hand and tapping the tabletop with the other. At this moment, Ren's sharp and pure killing intent shrouded the two of them unscrupulously. Ignorant and stupid. Boom. The Blood Clan elder in the room had just begun to speak. A handful of black mist had already spread out behind him, and in a flash, the bones of the gods and demons came down with their claws. The Blood Clan elder's words suddenly stopped and he was completely dragged into the black mist. What followed was the sound of gnawing flesh and bones and chewing bones in the black mist. Roar, we of you. After seeing this 227 scene, the Silver Wolf commander, who had risen from rage and was transforming into a werewolf, suddenly froze in place. Whether it is the Earl of Blood Clan or the werewolf leader, they are all on the same level. Especially the Earl of Blood Clan, who comes from the vampire Jinting clan, has pure blood and strong combat power. This Silver Wolf leader is an old rival in Europe. After hundreds of years of fighting life and death, the Silver Wolf commander has only been able to defeat his opponent very few times. But now, the white skeleton in the black mist was just a flash of claws, leaving the Earl of Blood Clan without even the slightest ability to resist. The old rivals of many years are gone? Halfway through his transformation, the Silver Wolf commander felt very embarrassed and looked at the others as if asking for help. However, there are no eggs. After seeing how powerful and domineering Ren is. At this time, those cunning old fritters all seemed to be sitting upright and not seeing anything. At the same time, Ren's eyes also fell on the Silver Wolf commander. In the looming black mist, there is a terrifying energy that is always entangled with the Silver Wolf commander. The Silver Wolf commander gritted his teeth and turned into a silver wolf. Then he ran up to Ren and nuzzled the other person's trousers obediently. Sensible, what a big dog, I will save you from death today. Chapter 68. The Silver Wolf commander who surrendered under Ren's feet was the pinnacle existence of Earth Evil. It would be good to take him and use him as a hunting dog. The man sat upright, and the sunlight came from the Taiyan jade ring between his fingers, stroking the soft hair on the Silver Wolf's head. Along with the twilight of the lunar jade ring, the mark of imprisonment is imprinted. After just over 10 breaths of time, the original light of wisdom in the eyes of the Silver Wolf commander began to slowly fade away. Just a short while. In front of everyone, a werewolf leader who was originally humanoid completely transformed into a spiritual beast. The spirituality is still there, but it is obviously no longer anthropomorphic. This is the human lunar jade ring, which has imprisoned most of the 7 emotions and 6 desires led by the Silver Wolf, and the ghosts of the 5 yins have also blinded the evil of its memory. At the same time, the mark left by the Taiyan jade ring sorted out the bloodline of Silver Wolf and opened the magical power of Xiaoyu for him. Ouch! The Silver Wolf, whose blood was boiling, soon let out a long roar, and the aura and combat power on his body rose again and again. In an instant, this Silver Wolf has reached the pinnacle of planet level, Earth Evil. There is only one step left to become a level sub-god father, Tian Gang, spiritual beast. Watch this scene. The group of people in the room who were already sitting upright suddenly became extremely well behaved. Without him, the strange methods Ren showed were much more frightening than the black fog skeletons before. Death is already terrible. This kind of fate of not being dead, but still being remembered in ignorance, and becoming a slave and lackey, is simply worse than death. It's so outrageous. The demons of hell are just playing with souls. This Ren Sullivan is simply more devil than a devil, not only playing with the soul, but also with the body. Wait until the Silver Wolf at your feet is dealt with. Only then did Ren have his thoughts and cast his gaze on the other people present again. Your Majesty, Enya, on behalf of the Chaos Witches, would like to send you my regards. Your Majesty, the elf messenger Enyo sends greetings to you on behalf of our prince. Your Majesty, the High Clan is willing to make peace with you. This time, Ren didn't need to speak again. Everyone was respectful and saluted Ren meticulously, as if what happened before had never happened. But in the face of these guys who have restrained all their unruliness, Ren can't even nod. The strong are respected and the weak are eaten by the strong. The jungle law in this underground world is much more direct than in official society. At least, the kind of power that Ren showed, which could be sub-heavenly father at the lower end and level god father at the upper limit, was enough to overwhelm everyone present. Even among the Dark Council, he can be regarded as an absolutely powerful being. Wait until the purpose of deterrence is achieved. Ren stood up quickly, adjusted his suit, and said, America's underground rules and interest chain will remain the same as usual. The forces of the Irish Gang, the Russian Bear Gang, the Hand and the Brotherhood were merged into the Sullivan Group. At the same time, when I need it, your channels must be open to me unconditionally. After I have finished speaking, who agrees? Who opposes? His sharp eyes were as sharp as a heavenly sword, making people dare not look at him and no one dared to object. A strong man who started out as level sub-god father, and has the official momentum to join him. Even the Dark Council originally, in the land of North America, could not refuse Ren's request. What's more, Ren's request is not too much. The benefits are still the same, the most is that they have a nominal underworld overlord on their head. As for the channel or not, if you come and go with me, won't we have friendship in the future? It doesn't cost a penny. The only ones who really suffered heavy losses were the Blood Clan, the Werewolves and the Hand. Your Majesty is merciful, and the Chaos Witches fully agree with your Majesty's proposal. Whoever dares to oppose your Majesty is an enemy of our Triad Association. The Sea Tribe will convey your Majesty's request in all offshore areas. Your Majesty, may the darkness take care of you. This is the case with the Dark Council. It is even more difficult to unite than to reach the sky. Since World War II, America has gradually become the center of the world in this world. In the past, Irish, Russian, Japanese and other forces had the upper hand in America, taking more and more. It also has the support of Blood Clan, Werewolf, Hand, etc. Now these 3 parties are in conflict with the emerging underground overlords, coupled with official attacks from America. With Ren's commitment today. Although the golden land of contract reneging has been occupied by the Sullivan Group, other places can still allow many forces to seize some of the benefits. In this case, let alone just praise and respect someone, you can just call him Dad. Wait until everyone present is settled. Ren didn't promise anything else, he just left Firefox behind to communicate with these people about underground forces. Immediately afterwards, Ren went directly back to Longju Island. In this wave, Ren and the vampires, werewolves, and Hand were completely at odds with each other, and the conflict became even greater. With America's interests greatly weakened, the next battle with these three parties will inevitably be more fierce and more tyrannical. In terms of upper-level combat power and lower-level combat power, Ren has nothing to worry about. In terms of upper-level combat capabilities, as Ren progresses further into the foundation-building realm, his mana accumulation becomes richer, and he can use the blood-transforming demonic knife to launch an attack. With the ferocious power of the blood-transforming demon sword, 10 swords can directly kill the level Godfather. Deterrence is definitely no problem. What's more, as Ren's strength expands, the corpse collection team becomes more and more extensive, and the number of corpses increases every day, enough for the Bone God and Demon to take another step forward and become a true 12 Yuan Chen Bone God and Demon. It is different from the magic sword that requires human activation. After the 12 Yuan Chen White Bone Gods and Demons are formed, they can generate the 12 Yuan Chen formation on their own and draw energy from the heavens, time and space, enough to support the regular battles of level Godfather, Yuan Chen realm. In terms of lower-level combat capabilities, Zhao Hao, Professor Connors's research on lizard serum has been very thorough, and its popularity has greatly increased. As long as Ren needs it, the super lizard warriors at the bottom can launch a wave of crazy explosions at any time, which can be used to deal with ordinary vampires, werewolves, and ninjas. It's enough to crush one. Not to mention, after taking over the Osborn Group, Ren has more choices in genetic research. What really worries Ren now is the strength of the middle and upper level leaders under his command. For example, Frank, John, Natasha Romanoff, Firefox, Sloane, Cross, etc. are typical examples of beings that are better than the best, and still a little bit behind compared to truly extraordinary creatures. Therefore, people must completely refine the Destiny Loom as soon as possible. When the time comes, the cloth woven by the Destiny Loom will be enough for Ren to carry out preliminary deification of his subordinates. As long as the canonization of the gods is successful, Ren will lead people to the lairs of vampires, werewolves, and the Hand without hesitation. Chapter 69. In the contract market, the Sullivan Group is expanding rapidly. Natasha Romanoff is now used by Ren as a business CEO, while Firefox is responsible for the order and interests of the underground gang. In addition, Frank and John lead the team, which can serve as a deterrent and support force. In this case, Ren once again transformed into an otaku. Dragon Pearl Island, William Castle, Underground Alchemy Room. The originally ancient and mysterious loom of fate has been dismantled by Ren into a pile of raw materials. The raw materials of this destiny loom, after thousands of years of baptism by the power of fate, cause and effect, faith, etc., have produced a certain degree of miraculousness. But in essence, these materials are still ordinary wood, which is not enough to support the sublimation of exotic treasures. But after 3 days of research, Ren discovered that on the raw materials of this destiny loom, the former wood grains had been distorted into nearly complete Dao grains. These Dao lines are the reason why the destiny loom can turn into the embryo of an exotic treasure. As long as these Dao patterns are thoroughly studied, people can completely turn them into runes and incorporate them into Tianfuan's knowledge system. Unfortunately, Ren was in a dilemma when it came to the choice of refining materials. World branches and leaves is definitely the top and best choice. But after the last refinement of the Lianji dust formation, there were not many branches and leaves left in the world. If he went to gather the wool of the Ancient One Magician again, Ren was afraid that the Ancient One Magician would explode directly. The remaining materials, such as Hardware Elite, Deep Sea Silver Marrow, Lunar Divine Iron, and Star Sand, have unfavorable properties. If you want to retrain the Destiny Loom, you have to use spiritual wood as a real material. But what makes people scratch their heads is that there are very few resources such as spiritual trees, spiritual herbs, and elixirs in people's hands. 4 days of hard thinking. Even after the Destiny runes were researched, Ren still couldn't find the soul trapped by the Destiny attribute. At the same time, the spiritual silk thread used for weaving is also difficult to find. Just when Ren was getting more and more in trouble. On the 8th day after returning to Longju Island, Ren received a call from his little girlfriend Gwen. Ren, my boyfriend, you haven't contacted me in 2 weeks and I'm very angry. Baby Gwen, you listen to my quibbles, no, you listen to my explanation. I don't listen, I don't listen. If you don't want to continue, I won't be chased by anyone. Oh my dear, don't mess around. Who is next to you? Where are you? Forget it, I'll be there soon. Ren, it's not what you think. It's Isabel, my new best friend. We are going. Gwen's words haven't even finished yet. At the moment, Ren has passed the position of the lunar jade ring and traveled directly through the air. Broadway Street. Two beauties, Gwen and Isabel, were sitting very intimately in an outdoor coffee shop. They all fell into a daze as they watched Ren walking out of the void. Gwen has never seen Ren's extraordinary ability. And Isabel, the little princess who ran away from home from the Chaos Witch troupe, was no stranger to this kind of traveling through the void, but she was just a little bit surprised. These days, the techniques of catch and adulterer are becoming more and more sharp, but they are a little bit outrageous. The first time I met Gwen and Isabel, Ren has realized that he most likely made an own mistake. However, the immortal cultivator still had some talent, so he felt calm and started to change the topic. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? You want to go see a movie? How about I book the tickets? Beautiful lady, please introduce yourself. I am Gwen's boyfriend, Ren Sullivan. Ren's appearance was neither a surprise nor a shock, just a little unexpected. Fortunately, Gwen understands men. After realizing Ren's embarrassment despite his calmness, he threw himself into Ren's arms very considerately. The two were intimate for a while, CDFG. Until Isabel next to her was fed a mouthful of dog food, and she coughed twice. Gwen just held Ren's arm generously and said, "Isa, my boyfriend is also a transcendent, and he is also a rich man. How about we kill him with a knife today and then go to the movies?" Isabel nodded towards Ren, seeming a little introverted. The atmosphere was somewhat stiff. Ren also didn't expect that his little girlfriend Gwen would actually become good friends with Isabel, one of his two other scheduled Taoist companions. However, after the initial exchange with the two, Ren actually knew the reason. It turns out that half a month ago, under the fatal blow from the authorities, many gangsters from the underground forces rioted. As the ghost Spider-Man who promises to be a good neighbor to the people, Gwen is also very busy. Just in the process of fighting crime and saving citizens again, Isabel, who was trying to blend into ordinary human life, was saved. At that time, Isabel had run away from home for some time and had spent all her money. Gwen was kind-hearted. After removing the ghost spider equipment, she quickly found Isabel who was living on the street and brought her back to her apartment. The girls are all newbies and wary. In just 1 week, both parties discovered each other's hidden identity. A ghost Spider-Man and a little witch who ran away from home suddenly decided to form a goddess alliance to fight crime after a short discussion. After a week of joint fighting, the friendship between the two parties quickly upgraded and they became good friends. It's not the plastic kind, it's a real best friend who talks about everything. At this time, the negotiations between Ren and the Dark Council had ended, and a large number of gangsters were once again circled back into the underground forces and restrained. New York gradually returned to calm, and Gwen just remembered Ren's arrival. After having this level of understanding, Ren welcomed Isabel's appearance. As the saying goes, guard against fire, guard against theft, and guard against besties. It seems that when I have time in the future, I will make more trips to Gwen's place to let Isabel see how good I am. Gwen, I'm not a boyfriend and I'm not moral. In fact, the pure yin energy in Isabel's body is full of spirituality, and the body of Yuan Yin is really too tempting. With such a big supplement, you can completely sublimate your superior foundation building into a humane foundation building. This is a qualitative change, enough to increase one's own basic cultivation several times. And the most important thing is, this kind of spiritual and pure yin energy can enhance understanding and nourish the soul, so it is extremely precious. Chapter 70. As evening approached, Ren stood on the street of Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, somewhat doubting his life. From the beginning, Ren knew that shopping with a woman was hard work. But what Ren didn't expect was that after gritting his teeth and persevering, his Taoist heart actually grew a lot. I don't know if I will do this again if I encounter something like this again. Just when Ren was in a daze, Gwen and Isabel, who were obviously much happier, each carrying a large bag of luxury goods, came to Ren's side arm in arm. The two of them didn't notice Ren's tiredness at all, they were both full of excitement. "Dear boyfriend, have you made a reservation at the restaurant?" "Well, it's okay. Then let's go and make some suggestions, boyfriend," Haha. Honey, there's mine too. After an afternoon of shopping, Isabel has obviously gotten to know Ren a lot, and sometimes even teases Ren, not to mention Gwen. Returning to Broadway Street again, Ren deliberately chose an Italian restaurant very close to the cinema. A French meal takes too much time, and by the time the meal is over, it will be very late. Fortunately, as long as you have money, Italian restaurants can also create an extremely romantic atmosphere. But it's a pity that these atmospheres are wasted for the blind. Two best friends, Gwen and Isabel, seemed to have isolated Ren, and they kept whispering. Definitely, this could also be retaliation for Ren's caught-our behavior. Fortunately, Ren's Taoist heart has improved a lot. As long as he is not embarrassed, others will be embarrassed. It feels pretty good to appreciate the beauty and enjoy the food. Finally, the meal is coming to an end. Ren suddenly remembered and asked, "Baby Gwen, ISA, which movie do you want to watch tonight?" The two said in unison, "It's definitely Harry Potter." After saying that, the two of them smiled in a tacit understanding of each other. Then Gwen picked up a table knife, danced in the air, and said, "ISA, when you use magic and witchcraft, why do you never use a magic wand, and spells?" One Gwen's words continued. But Ren, who was casually booking tickets, suddenly had a flash of inspiration in his mind. Harry Potter, wands, yes, how to make wands. The spiritual trees, elixirs, and spiritual herbs on my Dragon Pearl Island have not yet matured, but I can use the magic wand manufacturing method to perfect the materials for the Destiny Loom. I don't have much top-notch spiritual wood resources. But secondary spiritual wood resources, such as oak hearts that are more than 1,000 years old, are still sufficient. Carve runes on the heart of oak, fill the meridians of the leaves of the world tree on the inside, and communicate with the outside. It is not too difficult to make such materials, and the materials obtained are top-notch materials second only to branches and leaves in the world. Muah! Ren immediately stood up with a face full of surprise, picked up Gwen and gave her a long kiss. Until she kissed Gwen until her face turned red. Ren just let go of the other party and said, "Baby Gwen, you are really my big treasure, you have solved a big problem for me. The wand-making method is not only suitable for spiritual wood. Once developed, it can be used in various jade spiritual essences and even in other aspects, and can be adjusted. In this way, the cultivation resources in people's hands can be used more efficiently." Ren was pleasantly surprised, and Gwen was also happy after feeling dizzy. Only Isabel felt a little overwhelmed even before she had eaten much. This dog food came very suddenly. Isabel put down the tableware depressedly, rolled her eyes, and said, "Gwen, and this boyfriend, please pay attention to the situation next time. It's hard to eat dog food mixed with rice. Can I get a room for you two now? Got a lot of complaints from my best friend." Gwen was also a little shy, and quickly let go of Ren, hugged Isabel with her backhand, and said, "Okay ISA, don't mind it. At most, I'll just turn over your sign tonight and leave him alone." Isabel was speechless and said, Go, you think I'm careless, I just hugged a man, you're so damned." Gwen sniffed and said, "It doesn't stink, ISA, smell it, it really doesn't stink, it's still very fresh." Isabel was a little moved and said, "I don't smell it, it just smells, smell it. Ren, I messed with whoever I was messing with. When we first met, I thought Isabel had a cold and introverted temperament. Unexpectedly, he was essentially a tsundere little pepper, and ended up being a bit naive. Forget it, I won't be acquainted with each other anymore. There's nothing wrong with being a little naive. At the very least, it's easy to deceive. Bah, it's easy to get started. Not right either." All in all, it was pretty good. After a movie ended, Gwen and Isabel were still discussing the plot of the movie. Asking for flowers 0 and at Ren's strong request. In addition, Gwen also wants to take Isabel to visit her future home, which is Longju Island. The two women finally decided to take a day off from business, temporarily gave up attacking the criminals who broke the contract, and followed Ren back to Dragon Ball Island. On the way home, Ren was still a little bit queasy. You know, now 70% of the entire underground forces, transactions, etc. are their own industry. The two prodigal women also fight against criminals every day, and they beat up their own little brothers. Fortunately, neither Gwen nor Isabel is the kind of heroine who is too tough. Fighting crime or something like that just means losing some money. Chuan thought it was just to have fun with his girlfriend and gain experience for the two girls. It doesn't matter, I have money. Point 0. The journey was uneventful and the speed was steady until we entered Longju Island. That's right, with the output of a large amount of US dollars and 5 elements spells. At the moment, a private sea bridge has been built between Longju Island and Manhattan, which is very convenient. It's just that people mostly use the ghosts of the 5 yin to travel through the air, and the number of vehicles traveling is not much. Back in Longju Island, even the dojo at night is very dreamy and beautiful. Gwen and Isabel were both very excited and went on a night tour of the island together. At this time, Ren couldn't wait to come to the open study next to the bedroom on the 3rd floor, ready to design and deduce how to transform the wand-making method into the immortal version. Anyway, Gwen has to spend the evening with her best friend Isabel, so she most likely won't have time to discuss the yin-yang Tao. This work took more than 3 hours. Late at night. Just as Ren stretched, a nimble figure came into the study. Ren, I'm so happy that you can accompany Isa and I today. Just be happy, you are my baby Gwen. Then what are you waiting for? Hey, ghost spider costume? Are you so relaxed today? I originally planned to go fight crime with Isa, but it gave you an advantage. Haven't you always wanted to? The Oriole cries at night, sweet and long. In the bedroom diagonally opposite the study, Isabel, who has a keen sense of spirituality, had already woken up when Gwen left. It's just a small night vision, can it be difficult to find this girl? You Gwen, you don't even accompany me when you're with a man, hey, you're just a plastic bestie. Wait, how can you be so spicy? Hiss, so exciting. Chapter 71. The next morning, the newly renovated Chaoyang restaurant in William Castle. The person who stayed up all night breathed out the purple energy of the morning sun without a break, and reconciled the pure yin energy of creation that came from a night of struggle. Today, there is no so-called danshan theory in the human body. By building a superior foundation, the danshan is already complete. Build the foundation of human nature, break the limits of danshan, and achieve the foundation of immortality. But even so, with the help of yin and yang Hehuandeo, after the yin and yang are reconciled, the immortal foundation will be expanded by 1 point. Even Gwen's practice started last night. The creation synergy does not require Gwen to comprehend and operate the exercises on his own. As long as Ren cooperates in dual cultivation, he can continuously cultivate and enhance the chance of creation in his body and strengthen his origin. The specific manifestation is that Gwen's spider telepathy, speed and dexterity, etc., will gradually turn into supernatural powers. Wait until Ren's list of gods is refined into 7, 6, and 7 skills. Once she became a god, Gwen's divine cultivation level could directly soar to an extremely powerful level. With the cooperation of nature, Gwen's role on people will be extended indefinitely. Wait until Ren's breathing is over. Isabel, who had also stayed awake all night, came to the restaurant with a few dark circles under her eyes. Boyfriend, were you doing your homework just now? It's Isa, yes, breathing out the purple energy of the morning sun every day is a must for me. I know, I heard my mother say that this is Eastern Taoist practice, right? Then you know quite a lot. Ren gave Isabel a thumbs up, and after performing a spell, several skeleton demons came to the restaurant carrying breakfast. Isabel was even less surprised by the appearance of the withered bone demon. Black magic, undead, etc. are basically necessary lessons for the witch stream. At most, there are just a few complaints about Ren's behavior of squeezing the summons of the undead. Fortunately, after more than half a year of training, the withered bone demon's cooking skills are already very good. Ren didn't explain anything, he just occasionally quarreled and teased Isabel while enjoying breakfast. At the end of breakfast, Gwen, who had only slept for less than 2 hours, was attracted by the fragrance and came to the restaurant with some sleepy eyes. Muah! Gwen first gave Ren a good morning kiss, then cheered up, looked at Isabel, and said, Isabel, why didn't you call me for breakfast? I'm so hungry. Isabel rolled her eyes and didn't want to pay attention to her plastic best friend. Gwen, however, had quick hands and eyes, snatched a piece of sausage from Isabel's plate, and immediately started making a fuss. The two quarreled for a while, making the whole restaurant bright and sunny. After a long while, Isabel noticed something was wrong with her chest, and then she stopped, her face feeling a little hot. Okay Isa, I'm really hungry, let me have one more bite, just one bite. Hey! Here it is it delicious? It's delicious, the meat is juicy and very delicious. Hehe, how does that compare to the one of your brave little tiger? ISA, you want to die. Puff. Keep going. Ren didn't swallow a mouthful of juice, all of it squirted out, and he couldn't hold it anymore and ran away. Ren knew about Isabel waking up and peeking late last night. Even if Isabel could see it, it was Ren who deliberately leaked it to the other party. But Ren really didn't expect that the scale of chatting between the two women would be so big. Mud, the speed is too fast. If someone wasn't paying attention, the wheels of the car would hit his face. I can't stand it, I really can't stand it. Ren did not continue to eavesdrop on the chat between Gwen and Isabel, and quickly took the results of his 3-hour deduction last night to the underground Dan Fang. It is said to be an elixir, but in fact it is also a weapon refiner. It has multiple functions and is mainly convenient and practical. A large amount of alchemy and weapon refining materials are also stored here. It is not an easy task to reproduce the wand-making method from the movie, let alone transform it into a spiritual version of the spiritual material. Western methods of making wands are mostly crude and rely on various combinations. The creation of spiritual materials for cultivating immortals is light and clever, and pays attention to being natural. Therefore, even if people have the entire Luofu world's knowledge system of Tianfu, Yunzwan, and Swan, they would not dare to practice with the scarce spiritual materials easily. First, ordinary oak wood is used, and various runes and prohibitions are engraved on the outside to connect with the internal wood grain. Then the veins of ordinary spiritual grass are driven into the wood grain gaps to fill them, and the rejuvenation technique is added to revive the creation and form a whole. Bang! 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 The rune prohibition does not match the internal wood grain veins, so it fails. Improper integration of oak grain and spiritual grass veins will lead to medical failure. Throughout the morning, Ren tried to create spiritual materials nearly 100 times, but only succeeded once. As Ren expected, this is indeed a complicated and labor-intensive process that cannot be accomplished overnight. In a sense, this is already a completely new way of developing spiritual materials. Each piece of wood has a different grain. Each spiritual grass and the veins of each spiritual grass are also different. The successful one did turn an ordinary piece of wood into a spiritual wood, but it seemed like luck. Rune restrictions and material properties are easy to adjust. But in terms of adaptability, this thing is essentially an ultra-complex calculation combination of scanning, trial and error, and spiritual integration. Near noon, Ren rubbed his brow. Even with Ren's current understanding, soul, and mental strength, it is simply too much for him to concentrate on the deduction for an entire morning. At this time, Ren was particularly yearning for Tony's artificial intelligence computer. Wait, why don't you build an artificial intelligence computer that cultivates immortality? Just go and get Tony Shit's achievement 2.1? It's hard to say. After the other party traveled to the Middle East and became Iron Man, when he returned to the mansion to build the steel armor for the first time, J.A.R.V.I.S was still an artificial artificial mental retardation or something like that is completely useless to me now. What's more, he wants to build an immortal version of the supercomputer, and after the refining is successful, it will still be connected to the soul. What if it was an artificial mental retardation or something, and what if I got infected? If you want to create a version of the supercomputer that cultivates immortality, it must at least be a strong artificial intelligence. You must also raise a blank spiritual consciousness for the other party to facilitate the infusion of cultivation data. Theodore Roosevelt Base, Arnhem Zola. Isn't this just a ready-made strong artificial intelligence, and it also comes with its own spiritual power? Thank you HYDRA, these are such a good bunch of people. Chapter 72. Build your own version of a supercomputer for cultivating immortals, and create an artificial intelligence to assist in your cultivation. This idea is great, and Ren is 70% to 80% sure of success. If it weren't for the free sponsorship of HYDRA, a group of good people, Ren still has to learn programming and so on, hire a lot of artificial intelligence experts to assist him, and maybe even go to Tony to get the underlying code and core algorithm of JARVIS. This process alone takes an unknown amount of energy and time. And success is not necessarily guaranteed. After all, it is definitely not an easy task to create a weapon spirit from scratch that specializes in assistance, calculation, and deduction. Even in the Luofu world, similar auxiliary spiritual treasures are rare. At the very least, there is only one heavenly pressure disk that people know about. But from a scientific perspective, not to mention creating a copycat version of the Tiandao Jade disk, simply transforming supercomputing and artificial intelligence into an immortal version is by no means an achievement. At that time, people might have become immortals long ago, and they would still need to cultivate immortality. But there is ready HYDRA Dr. Zola to contribute. All Ren needs to do is to find Theodore Roosevelt base, and then extract Dr. Zola's spiritual consciousness from the computer and transform it. Then, order a top-level supercomputer from the market and put the modified Dr. Zola into it. Ren guarantees that he can do these two steps perfectly. As long as this is the case, the HYDRA brand Zora strong artificial intelligence will be initially in place. Things like the conversion of data codes and immortality runes, the spiritual energy refining of the supercomputer body, etc. can all be left to Zola to complete slowly in the future. I can just get some soul purification from the vampire farm and give it to Zola. In this way, he can greatly simplify his future cultivation, alchemy, weapon refining, array formation and other matters. To put it simply, you generate your own ideas, then instill them into Zola and let him simulate and deduce them. After everything evolves successfully, you can just practice it casually. Well, one Zora might not be enough. If you have the chance, you can join forces with the Ancient One Magician, God King Odin, etc., to attack a wave of hell, and see if you can get back the souls of scientists such as Howard Shitball and Abraham Erskine. These are top-notch tool people. No, they are immortal version of artificial intelligence embryos. I just don't know if Tony, the big shit, will go against me if he knows about it. If so, Tony Shithead has a genius known as the smartest brain in the Marvel Universe. If it had its own soul, wouldn't one be stronger than 10? No, I can't think like this anymore, it's too cruel. You must stick to the Taoist mind and cannot deliberately harm innocent people, otherwise you will enter the devil's way. Forget it, Tony the shit won't live long anyway, and by the time Thanos comes, he will be dead. That is only more than 10 years. Currently, Zola is more reliable. Well, you can also try the plan of fishing people out of hell. After understanding the construction plan of building engineering intelligence and supercomputing, Ren has no idea about the creation of spiritual materials. To sharpen your knife and chop wood, let's play with Gwen and Isabel for 2 days first. Anyway, Dr. Zola has been at the Theodore Roosevelt base for decades, not less than these 2 days. Think of this. Ren quickly put down the materials in his hands and returned to the upper level of the castle excitedly. In the next few days. As expected, Ren was having fun, accompanying Gwen and Isabel on Longju Island, hanging out, and even took the time to visit George's father-in-law. When the university started, Gwen had to go back and make an appointment to go to university. On the contrary, Isabel, after getting acquainted with Ren, her relationship grew and stabilized, and she directly lived on Longju Island temporarily. In Isabel's words, ordinary human society is too difficult. I really can't do this question. Different from the original plot of The Fairy Wife, after Isabel was deliberately educated by Ren for the past 2 days, she went out in a luxury car and used all luxury goods. It is said that it is easier to live in luxury than to live in frugality, even if you are a little fairy, no, a little witch. That shiny bag, that beautiful clothes, that gorgeous jewelry. Any one piece costs tens of thousands of dollars, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Isabel had been away from home for several months and had only earned less than $300 in total. When would she be able to earn as much as a bag? Anyway, my best friend's boyfriend is rich. What's your best friend's belongs to you, so why bother distinguishing it so clearly? After Isabel moved into the castle on Longju Island, Ren was not too anxious. Unlike women like Natasha Romanoff and Firefox. Natasha Romanoff and Firefox, even if their yin bodies were given to Ren, they still have too many thoughts that need to be controlled. As for Gwen and Isabel, they are both very pure in mind and not deeply involved in the world. Once they get along, using human methods is enough to make the two women fall in love more and more with all their hearts, until they stay together forever, life and death. So Ren is also happy to spend time on Gwen and Isabel, which is a lot of fun. As love permeates the air, people's spiritual anchors will become stronger and their paths will become broader and broader. This is also the so-called human being follows the earth follows the heaven, and the heaven follows nature. Practitioners are essentially unable to escape from the world. Only by relying on a strong enough world can they go further on the path of transcendence. So I spent 2 more days playing with Isabel on Longju Island. Ren found another opportunity to spend a few days with Natasha Romanoff and Firefox respectively. Under Isabel's all kinds of coquettishness and cuteness, Ren made some preparations and took Isabel with him to the Theodore Roosevelt base in New Jersey. In the movie Marvel Universe, Dr. Zola only appears in Captain of the United States 2 and does not appear much time. It seems that Dr. Zola is useless and harmful. But in terms of settings, Dr. Zola's IQ is on the same level as Iron Man and Dr. Doom. In addition, this world is so far apart from the world. No one knows if Dr. Zola has any other back UPS in Theodore Roosevelt base. For Dr. Zola, the future immortal version of strong artificial intelligence. People take it very seriously. As long as Dr. Zola can be successfully transformed into an immortal version of artificial intelligence, whether it is practicing, refining alchemy, refining weapons, setting up formations, collecting resources, expanding power, scientific experiments, etc. One's spiritual path must be on the fast track, the kind of half-driving. Chapter 73. The Roosevelt family is a very large political family in America. Many secret bases and military bases in America over the years have been named after the Roosevelt family, including the Theodore Roosevelt base in New Jersey. This used to be after World War II. America used an abandoned base to house some Nazi scientists during Operation Paperclip. Arnim Zola was the most outstanding among the many scientists detained at the time. He was originally from Switzerland. He fell into the arms of Germany during World War II. He was proficient in almost all subjects and was a genius. He was the chief scientist of Germany at that time. On the battlefield of World War II, many of Germany's high-tech weapons were the works of Arnim Zola. Even HYDRA's takeoff was fueled by Arnim Zola. After World War II ended, Arnim Zola was imprisoned in this base in New Jersey. Everyone thought that Arnim Zola had died of illness in bed in the 1970s. But in fact, except for a very small number of HYDRA Corps executives, almost no one knows that Arnim Zola was originally a genetic engineer. Even while being imprisoned, Arnim Zola also used limited conditions to transfer his consciousness into a super-large computer. Even after this base was abandoned, Arnim Zola successfully summarized the Zola algorithm. When Ren and Isabel came to this abandoned base in New Jersey, basically, America's official guards are no longer visible on the perimeter of the entire base. They walked quietly all the way to the depths of the abandoned base. After a while, Ren found a large computer hidden in an abandoned underground computer room based on some comparisons in his memory. I have to say that Arnim Zola is really smart and cunning. Although this super-large computer is very old and ancient, its computing capabilities are still very good. And even if it is an abandoned base, it falls within the scope of S.H.I.E.L.D's internal network. Arnim Zola is hidden here. He can enter and exit the S.H.I.E.L.D secret database anytime and anywhere, and he can maintain this access without being noticed. Even the connections between HYDRA such as Arnim Zola and Alexander Pierce can be kept secret. This superb hidden ability is invincible. Because Arnim Zola originally could be anyone in the S.H.I.E.L.D internal network. In the plot of Captain of the United States 2, if the protagonist hadn't cheated and castrated Arnim Zola in various ways, God knows how long Arnim Zola could have been hidden. But this can be considered a contribution to Ren. After knowing the specific situation of Arnim Zola, long before entering this abandoned base, Ren had already activated the 12 Yuan Chen formation of the Bone God and Demon, briefly suppressing everything here. Especially when Ren comes to the lair where Arnim Zola is hiding. People can feel it clearly. Arnim Zola's consciousness is trying to escape from the 12 Yuan Chen formation through signal transmission in an extremely strange way. Line signals, short-wave signals, long-wave signals, etc. The other party's consciousness has already given birth to a metaphysical and extraordinary meaning. This kind of escape method can no longer be isolated by power outage or network disconnection. You just know that in Captain of the United States 2, there must be plot cheating. Otherwise, how could an old man like Steve Rogers restrain an almost extraordinary network existence like Arnim Zola? Not to mention, a missile in the later plot will be destroyed together. Mud, rubbish Marvel, rubbish screenwriter. If he hadn't expected it and taken precautions in advance, Arnim Zola might have escaped this time. After Ren sensed the extraordinary consciousness in the network, he quickly clapped his hands. A touch of mana circulated and turned into abundant electrical energy, causing the rooms and computers inside the base to light up. Then, Ren looked at a camera on the supercomputer. Dr. Zola, you can't escape, why don't you come out and meet us? Ren can sense that the other party is hiding in the ubiquitous network signal gap, and is even observing himself through the camera. But unfortunately, Arnim Zola was very timid and did not show up for a long time. Even Isabel next to Ren couldn't help but have doubts. "Brave little tiger, you. ISA, you can call me Mr. Sullivan, Ren, or even honey, etc. Do you have to call me brave little tiger to make the atmosphere very embarrassing?" Giggle, "Okay, well, then I'd better call you boyfriend." "Okay. As long as it's not a brave little tiger." "Hey, boyfriend, are you mistaken? There is no one here at all, not even ghosts." Isabel can be regarded as having a family background and is knowledgeable. However, even within the ability category of witch mysticism, one cannot sense the trace of consciousness hidden in the gaps between various electronic signals. Arnim Zola is really awesome. Relying on technology and hardware from decades ago, without the help of any extraordinary power. The other party actually transferred his thinking consciousness directly to the computer through human genetic engineering through the programming of zeros and ones. Hidden for decades. The other party even relied on a set of Zola algorithms developed to cultivate spirituality with thinking and consciousness, and almost reached an extremely extraordinary bottleneck. Put it into practice. This is just like the weapon spirit becoming a spirit and giving birth to an internal god. However, Zhao knows, this Arnim Zola is spiritually transcendent, but he only knows science and does not know how to practice. Therefore, the other party can achieve ultimate sublimation between the network and signals, but it cannot escape the essence of nihilistic consciousness. It is the consciousness of nothingness, naturally without soul power or energy fluctuations. Coupled with the influence of electric current caused by the operation of surrounding machines, etc. Therefore, it is normal for Isabel not to be aware of the other party's existence. But all this cannot be hidden from Ren's the God's telekinesis. "It seems that Dr. Zola is not ready to have a good conversation with me, so I'm sorry," etc. Just when Ren thought about it, he used his seal to shrink the 12 Yuan Chen formation, preparing to pull Dr. Zola out of the gap of nothingness. The originally black computer screen revealed a short, fat, and honest figure after a burst of snowflakes. This person is Dr. Zola, who is hidden in the void gap in the electronic network. Chapter 74. In the dim underground computer room, Ren tightened his seal, followed by Isabel, who looked curious. In this abandoned base, it seems that even time is isolated from the outside world. The 12 Yuan Chen formation is the top formation in Luofu world, almost comparable to the Jotian Galaxy formation. The Jotian Galaxy formation is a powerful formation with space attributes that absorbs all chaos and puts it to one's own use. The 12 Yuan Chen formation is a powerful formation with the attribute of time, absorbing all nothingness and using it for one's own use. Among the imprints of the Luofu world in Ren's mind. In the upper reaches of time in the Luofu world, there are 12 divine beasts of the heavenly stem, who are extremely powerful in Hunyuan. They suppress the entire time stream of the world and converge all timelines. Almost no one can resist it. In Ren's hands, the 12 Yuan Chen formation is just the ultimate copycat version of the magical power of the Whitebone god and demon. But even so, it is enough to seal off a small abandoned base. No matter how hard Arnim Zola tried, he couldn't shake Ren's blockade at all. Only then did Arnim Zola appear. Arnim Zola's current state has no soul or body, only a shining spiritual mind. Even though he has become a data existence like artificial intelligence, he is still exactly the same as a human being. This kind of existence is far away even in the Luofu world. Ren looked slightly moved and said, "Dr. Zola, it's really difficult to ask you to come out for a meeting." 830 Dr. Zola was on the screen, pushing up his eyes and showing an awkward rather than polite smile. Immediately afterwards, Dr. Zola smiled bitterly and said, "Your Majesty, I know of your existence. In my data, there are also many records about Eastern practice. When I met your Majesty, I already felt a great sense of crisis. At the same time, when I was mobilizing the mysterious energy around me just now, I felt a sense of extreme fear. So please forgive me, Your Majesty, I am just afraid, not rude. An artificial intelligence with a strong desire to survive." For a moment, people felt a little confused about how to complain. At the same time. But Isabel was full of curiosity and said, "Boyfriend, do the people here really exist? Why can't I feel any of his soul and vitality? But the strange thing is that I can feel that this person is lying and has a sinister and cunning flavor. The occult science of the witch school has no facts at all and is very idealistic. For example, Isabel's ability to sense the good, evil, and emotions of people's hearts is something even Ren can't compare to. Dag, especially when faced with a being like Dr. Zola. Everyone can only rely on the method of searching for the true spirit to locate and restrict Dr. Zola. As for Isabel, as long as she talks to her, she can go straight into the other person's heart and distinguish between true and false, good and evil. Hear Isabel's words. Dr. Zola's expression on the screen also changed slightly, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. That's right, Dr. Zola's compliments and apologies to Ren are just delaying time. Even Dr. Zola couldn't convey any information. But the existence of Dr. Zola was originally an extremely hidden and extremely important point in HYDRA. Even if Dr. Zola does not usually communicate with the outside world HYDRA, in HYDRA's Internal Information Organization Department, someone will still check on Dr. Zola's status every 15 minutes. Now Dr. Zola is trapped by Ren and has completely lost contact with HYDRA. It only takes about 10 minutes for HYDRA to notice the accident on its side. In 12 minutes at most, HYDRA's missiles can arrive here and blow up this abandoned base to pieces. It's just that Dr. Zola didn't expect that he could hide it so well, but a little girl would see through it at a glance. At the same time, Ren is also decisive. After hearing Isabel's words, Ren began to activate the 12 Yuan Chen formation directly. HYDRA is HYDRA, more sinister and cunning than you can imagine. It's no wonder that many novels have plots where the villain dies because he talks too much. Since successfully building the foundation, my mentality has changed a lot. What can I say to such die-hard HYDRA fans? Never pretend to be loud just for the sake of showing off. For a being like Dr. Zola, all he wants is the other party's wisdom, spiritual knowledge, calculation power, etc., but his will cannot be left behind at all. Under Ren's control, the 12 Yuan Chen formation began to rapidly shrink in scope. Not much time. I saw 12 white bone beads emitting gleaming white light, forcefully pulling out a true spirit carrying infinite data from the void. I'm not willing to give in. God will kill me, HYDRA. All of Dr. Zola's spiritual consciousness is imprisoned in the chain of bone beads. Only in the empty underground computer room, Dr. Zola's last roar seemed to still remain. Ren recalled the bone bead chain into his hand, and then he put his arm around Isabel's waist again and said, "Isabel, the matter is over, we can leave." Isabel rolled her eyes at Ren, but let him take her into his arms. Spend a few days with Ren. Although Isabel is simple and naive, she is not without brains. Especially in terms of extraordinary magic and other aspects, she has extremely sharp and outstanding abilities. It's like Ren's 5 ghost skills. The 5 yin ghosts carry Ren and Isabel, and there is no need for Ren to hold them. But this man really made her heart beat, and he was also the boyfriend of her best friend. This gives Isabel a stimulating feeling every time. Just when Isabel's mind was racing with thoughts. At the moment, Ren took Isabel directly through the air and arrived at an altitude of 100 meters outside the abandoned base. Just escaped from the abandoned base. Ren's mobile phone soon received a text message. "Sorry, I just received news that something happened at the abandoned base in New Jersey." The HYDRA Information Organization Department was in chaos. Alexander launched a missile at the abandoned base in New Jersey. The source of the text message was an unknown number. The content of the message was without beginning or end, and no identity information was revealed. But Ren knew that this was the message sent to him by Stern, the core of HYDRA. As expected. Not long after Ren received the news. Then I saw in the southern sky of the abandoned base, a missile as bright as a meteor, dragging a long light tail, and sank directly into the abandoned base. Immediately afterwards, violent fire shot into the sky, and a group of firework exploded in the deserted night. Seeing this scene, Ren raised his eyebrows slightly. Dr. Zola is really cunning enough, so this was his plan. And Alexander is really ruthless. This group of HYDRA seems to be a bit difficult to deal with. Should we clean them up in advance? Chapter 75. Daxia District, S.H.I.E.L.D. Headquarters, Trident Building. In the Information Processing Department, which deliberately avoided the attention of cameras and colleagues, the Sitwell agent with a bald head and glasses was staring at the computer screen. After just a while, clear beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. Everyone must speed up, we don't have much time left. If the traces left by Dr. Zola cannot be removed, once discovered, all of us will die. It's 5 a.m., and there are still 2 hours at most. This is the limit, do you understand? Following a rapid and low roar. Several HYDRA members who specialize in network technology were nervously operating on the system. Sitwell, on the other hand, after sorting out his appearance, maintained his usual appearance and walked towards Alexander Pierce's office. Sitwell agent. Well, thank you for your hard work. Do it well. Thank you, sir. Along the way, Sitwell controlled his expression and attitude very well. Occasionally, he would meet colleagues on duty and exchange a few words with them in a cordial manner. Not long. Sitwell came to Alexander's office, looked around, and knocked on the door. Enter. In the room, a slightly low voice came. When Sitwell came in, he found that Alexander, who was usually kind, exuded a gloomy and violent feeling, frowning and smoking a cigar. Sir, the personnel in the Special Information Processing Department have been adjusted. No one will notice the abnormality. All problems will be solved before 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, it's best if you can handle it well. If you can't, remember, don't be merciful. Yes, sir, all personnel are under the surveillance of Agent Brock Rumlow, and there are no mistakes. Remember to report tonight's system intrusion to Nick Fury. Yes, sir. It's just, sir, what's going on at the abandoned base in New Jersey. Don't worry about things over there. With Dr. Zola's loyalty to the organization, he will not leave any information to the enemy. It's just a pity that our insight plan is without Dr. Zola. Well, in this case, we need to send someone to investigate secretly. No, the explosion at the abandoned base in New Jersey cannot be hidden from Nick Fury. Nick Fury will help us find the enemy. 11 While a large number of HYDRA members in S.H.I.E.L.D. were busy all night long. At the moment, Ren has brought Isabel back to Dragon Pearl Island to serve as the Minister of Castle William. After sending Isabel to rest, Ren went directly to the hive under Longju Island through the secret elevator. Today's hive is no longer as empty as it used to be. After the White House incident, after confirming the fact that the Osborn Group could be split up and transformed and moved all under his command without spending a penny, Ren then spent all the tens of billions of funds originally raised for the equipment of the hive base. The current hive is a super-large ultimate research base. However, among the first to move into the hive base, for the time being, only the team led by Professor Connors and the Gene Integrate experimental project he is researching are the only ones. Here, in the future, it will become the gathering place for Ren's most core scientific and technological research projects. Only derivative projects like the lizard serum will stay in the outside world and earn huge amounts of money. But this time, Ren came to the hive base, not for Professor Connors and others, but to resettle Dr. Zola, who was imprisoned in the chain of bone beads. The core supercomputer room of the Honeycomb base. After Ren arrived here, he quickly launched the 12 Yuan Chen formation again. The Dharma Eyes is penetrating and scans all the secrets in Dr. Zola's true spirit. After a while, Ren ignored Dr. Zola's various roars, threats, and howls, and condensed an ultimate sword edge on his fingertips, directly cutting into the vehicle of his consciousness. To deal with pure spiritual consciousness and will, relying on magic power, supernatural powers, etc. is useless. Only the purest kendo will can carve meticulously in the sea of true spiritual consciousness. With a high degree of concentration. One after another, the sword's edge marks layers of restrictions on Dr. Zola's true spirit. This is Ren's core underlying consciousness covering Dr. Zola's true spiritual will. Please give me flowers. His true spirit has been wiped out by the sharp edge of the sword's will. As the dense rune restrictions spread across his sea of true spiritual consciousness, the will from Ren began to replace and fill Dr. Zola's thinking and behavior patterns. Don't think too much. For allegiance to HYDRA, delete. The aura of wisdom increases. After more than 90 minutes of meticulous carving, a brand new artificial intelligence, Zola, was born. The brand new Zora has the powerful computing power and precise execution of artificial intelligence. At the same time, it also retains Dr. Zola's complete wisdom aura, Zola algorithm, and artificial genetic engineering core. Only the bottom layer of his memory is filled with Ren's will. After Ren completed the modification, he imported it into the core supercomputer of the hive. After a while, massive amounts of data are continuously uploaded and modified in the hive operating system, forming a new system with the Zola algorithm as the core. Zora, who was originally in a silent state, restarted, and his spiritual consciousness became active again. But this time, Zola didn't have any thoughts of escaping or being detrimental to Ren. Instead, served people wholeheartedly. Zola. Sir, do you have any orders from Tao? Master. Yes, sir, in my data, most of the extraordinary practitioners in the East are in the form of sects. In various records and depictions, those in power are called head teachers. Ha 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 ha, no need, just call me sir from now on. Just do as the Romans do. When Ren heard this, a very satisfied smile suddenly appeared on his face. Ren really doesn't understand artificial intelligence, core programming, data coding, genetic engineering, etc. But it doesn't matter, Ren can directly modify Zola's true spirit. When Ren's will is filled with Zola's true spirit, it is equivalent to using mysterious means to replace the other party's source code, making all his thoughts serve Ren. Even, in order to get closer to Ren's behavior pattern, he directly changed his title to Big Master. This is really, really great. Next, instill part of the practice knowledge into the other party, try the effect and then decide.
If you're enjoying the story so far and want to hear the next parts, don't forget to like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And if you'd like me to continue the series, drop a comment below letting me know. Your feedback and support keep these audiobooks going strong. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.